Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the City Council Work Session Retreat of Thursday, December 18th. Call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, before we get started, I would like to send a special thank you again to our Public Works Department, our Police Department, our Fire Department, for everything they did yesterday to keep us up and running. And looks like we might be in for some more. So thank you very much for all that extra effort. So if there's anyone that would like to make public comments, please raise your hand. When it's your turn, come on up, give your name and mailing address, and try to keep it under 3 minutes, and kind and respectful statements. So is there anyone that'd like to make public comment that's in the audience? Is there anyone that's on Zoom? Okay, great. So we will start with our first discussion item. Want to remind everyone that a retreat is not a place to make decisions, but to have discussions and set some goals for the upcoming year. Okay. So the first item on the agenda is the TLT, and the first item is the chamber contract, which we have a copy of in our packet. Who would like to start the discussion?
I actually kind of had a question. I probably should have brought it up when setting the agenda for this meeting, but not sure why this is a topic for us. This maybe Gary can explain why, but I feel like didn't we, despite my opposition to it, council 3-2 essentially decided we want to open the contract, providing parameters to the city manager for this is what the majority of council would like to see in the contract. Wouldn't that be direction to staff to then work with the chamber to begin negotiations on the contract? Is that, am I not understanding where we're at? I feel like by putting this on, we're kind of just beating a dead horse of bring this up. And I don't know.
No, I think
If that's where we're at.
I think you're pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That where we left it was with, staff direction. Actually, I think we left it with Tim. To, address the recommendations, especially the reporting recommendations. To work with Jim and the chamber to get those closer to something that would be, give us a clearer picture. And so I'm not sure where that's at. I mean,
Is that what you want this to be on, so we can discuss what Tim's understanding of that reporting stuff to work with Jim is that the hope to.
yeah, and since then, we've had another quarterly report that did not have any of the recommendations and. So it's just. I don't know how long ago we made recommendations, but it just seems like something that's gone nowhere, so.
Okay. Yeah, just it being type of chamber contract, I wasn't sure, that my understanding was we provide direction the staff to work with the chamber to begin a negotiation or change reporting, whatever specifically it was, and I didn't know what.
I recall it specifically about the reporting, but.
I met with, after that direction, I met with Jim and Amber, who does the accounting. We talked about, some things to go forward, which looked like then I offered to review the finances, review their report before it came to you in a formal presentation that didn't happen last presentation. But my understanding is it is going to happen this.
Okay,
Whatever happened to the discussion about capping the amount of money that we provide to the chamber, did that ever go anywhere?
I think it's lost in this.
Yeah, I did not move forward with anything, with regard to that.
I honestly feel like, all aspects that have been talked around the chamber contract have fallen completely flat. There hasn't been, at least with this council, there was a recommendation, then it comes in. Then, the chamber's asked to come in and give their presentation. They're asked to wait until the very end of long meetings, which is really disrespectful every time. And then nothing is really talked about. We had an hour and 20 minutes of a marketing manager trying to explain stuff we've already heard and know, and we never got any meat and potatoes. That there hasn't been any meat and potatoes. We haven't had a conversation. I think instead of having the chamber come in and give their presentation on what they've done for 90 days, we need to have a conversation with the chamber about our recommendations and why we think that's important. And it would be great if, thank you, Julie, for being here, if there are, you know, at least one or more, Eric, you're still on the board, I believe as well, board members here to take that back to the board and make that recommendation. But from what I've seen, it's just been, I feel that, I have my own personal thoughts on some things, and I think I've had this conversation with Gary a while ago and with Jim a while ago. That I don't think Jim and Gary are the ones that should be having these conversations. I think that they should be removed. I feel that there is, some, I don't wanna say bad blood, but something has happened along the way where there's just a feeling that they don't care for one another much. And so, I think having somebody in there that is not so personally involved, to help make these recommendations would be beneficial. To go over.
I would be happy to be that person if everyone's in agreement with that.
Yeah, that'd be fine with me.
I just wanna have.
Hmm?
I just wanna have a conversation.
Right.
It just seems like it hasn't happened.
Right.
I'm not sure about bad blood. I certainly have opinions based on, direct working involvement.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to call you out, I was just saying that's just my, I just have that feeling. So I'm not trying to call you out on anything, and I don't think that you're trying to do anything malicious. Either one of you, I just think it would be good to have somebody, a mediator kind of, if you will, there. Barb and Jim.
If I could like, just make one set of comments. I think if you actually enforce the current contract, you get your meat and potatoes part to Dio's. In that, the current contract states that we're supposed to see I believe the business plan, in particular for the off season. So I think from my standpoint with regards to the contract itself, I think we need to better enforce what the contract says currently. Second is, I think Jim and Amber and I really need to work on the reporting mechanism, because I think the way the reporting is done to council, is not, I guess it's not kind of high, it goes into a lot of bullet points that I'm not sure are really help the council understand what's going on. And so we need to streamline that part, and I think we need to work on the financial reporting, which has, I believe, gotten better from when I first started, to where it is now. So anyways, those were just my opinions, but.
It still is the best county practices, it still doesn't follow those, and it's really difficult to present, but
Yes.
been asking for that for a while.
Mhm.
And the other thing, I still think we need to discuss the idea of a cap. Which would be changing the contract, and that's just, I don't even know where we are, and I thought we had voted. I don't even know what happened in the last meeting.
I think it's just kind of fallen flat.
Yeah.
The last meeting, we spent an hour 20,
Right.
hearing stuff that didn't have anything to do with where we going forward.
I think what you said is really right on, you know, I'm glad you said it, I think it's at an impasse right now and not moving forward at all, and we have to.
I also think it needs to be, if we are going to cap the amount, it needs to be done pretty quickly because they're going to start their budgeting
Correct.
and we need to be fair
Mhm.
through their process. And I think I interrupted you.
No, I was just gonna say, is it January is the next quarter, or is it February?
Next quarter, they're coming to present in January 13th.
January.
Is the current.
Okay, and you haven't had a meeting with.
I have not.
I guess I would not be able to answer for anyone, what our marketing plan is. I think that's part of the recommendations that, that were made, were that, you know, we would essentially see and approve a marketing plan.
And that's actually, if you look in the current contract, that is actually essentially what is stated in the current.
Maybe it just needs to be said a little more directly. I don't know, I don't remember exactly what it said, but, and then there are certainly some things with, reporting. And I think the concern, and I don't know, it felt like we got pushback or blowback, like we're trying to penalize the chamber or set them back. When actually when recommendations were made, the amount set for the contract amount at that point was more than they had ever spent before on the marketing. So I just don't think it's fair to characterize it as penalizing. What it is this open-ended contract that where the total amount of the TOT flows through. That amount keeps growing. The excess goes into essentially our marketing plan. And then we really have little chance at any kind of oversight on that. And I think this all started when we knew there were hundreds of thousands of dollars in reserves from pandemic years and then years where much more money came in than was spent, and it took us several quarters to even come close to being able to see how much money was there. You know, let alone talk about what the plan for the money was. And since that time, we've seen two budgets and the reserve was used in their budget. I don't know if it was actually spent, but it was shown in the budget where I think over $100,000 for two budgets in a row was included. And so whether that's spent it all down, I just found it odd that we were actually spending more money than was actually coming in for the contract purposes.
So what is the recommended cap? What do you recommend as the cap is? I'm hearing a lot of, we found all of this, but what's the solution?
Well, there was a cap in those recommendations, but it's been at least a year.
It seems like.
And has there
So-
been, I mean, making a recommendation without having conversations with, the chamber board and getting some kind of agreement with them. You have to come to an agreement with the chamber, or we have to vote on canceling this contract completely and writing a new one. Because this contract cannot be changed unless both the chamber and the city agree. So that's where we are on that. So we either cancel this contract and write a completely new contract. Or we get together with the chamber, and in a little town like this, I think that's the right thing to do. And have a sit down. And come to an agreement, we have to come, we can't shove it down somebody's throat that this is what we're gonna do, and this is why, and I understand what you're saying. But we need to recommend a cap, we need to give a solution or as to exactly why, pare it down. Not we found this and we found that, there's a lot of overspending, I feel that that doesn't need to be done by the chamber. So I'm not saying that I'm not in agreement that things need to change, but we need to have an agreement with the chamber. Or we need to make the decision just to cancel this contract and write a new one.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be starting from scratch, it's just, you just amend the contract or changes in it. But
But we would have to cancel it. We
whenever
would
you
have to
have
give
the
them,
contract, you have to have both parties sign off.
yeah, and we would
So-
have to give them notice and cancel this contract, right? Yeah, that's what we would need to do if we don't have agreement from the chamber. And it says that here, so that's what needs to happen, and it needs to happen quickly. We've been kicking this can for months, and we just need to make.
I believe the recommendations were based upon, item 27, modification of contract. Where,
It
We
still
would-
has to be agreed upon by both parties.
just let me finish. Where we got together, we made some recommendations. Then it would have gone through that process. And obviously, nobody's shoving anything down anybody's throat, and yet both parties have to agree. I don't.
But council isn't, I don't feel that council has made it a priority. If this is what we wanna do, then we need to just say, okay, this is exactly what we wanna do, what do you agree with, what do you not agree with? And actually have a meeting that way with the chamber. Opposed to digging and trying to dig up skeletons and what has been done. Maybe I'm being dramatic the way that I'm speaking, but but that's okay, because that's okay.
You're just talking about
But
what should happen,
we just-
and you're right, we should.
we need to do this. We need to make a decision. This is a recommendation. We all need to agree, or the majority of us need to agree on that's where we wanna go. And give it to the chamber and let them come back with anything that they think that, you know, if they want to meet us in the middle on something or whatever we wanna do, and then we revise this contract, and I think we should have it done by March.
That's supposed to be the process that we were on, and it just got,
Wait,
yes, so, but we were gonna make some recommendations. We would first have to agree to them as a council, and then staff would, work on that and work with the chamber in revising the contract.
That's kind of back to my original question, to start off the entire discussion of. Why are we talking about this today? My understanding was that those recommendations were put together, Gary and Barb put this together. 3 out of 5 said, yes, these are recommendations that we want, 3 out of 5 is majority, that's council's consensus. And I thought that's where the discussion was at, that was the target for negotiation of the contract. And I thought that's where it was going, we were already going that direction with staff, having been given direction that a negotiations to take place with these as the parameters.
Well, that meeting, because it was in that, you're right, we did give that to the staff at that time.
but I think it was a little, and Tim could probably, there was some direction given, but I think the balance of it was a little willy-nilly.
Yeah, I don't feel it was as clear because.
Yeah.
we made it.
Well, we should,
But I'm happy if you want to give me the direction to state that you want to start and I work with Barb.
I felt like it was left a lot more like. You would take over some of the reporting things, but the rest of the actual revising of the contract.
Yeah, we did meet again, to talk about the reporting. Like I said, we made some progress, I thought, but then it did not come to me before this last meeting. So I think part of it is I need the chamber to send me in advance so I can review and help craft when they come to them. I think that is one, but again, I need. It can't just be me.
Mayor's gonna join.
So.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so we'll get this on track and make some decisions.
So this meeting that Tim and Barb are gonna meet with Jim prior to the packet getting put onto the agenda for the January meeting. They'll look at the reporting, is that where?
It's on the January 13th.
It's on the January 13th, which means it needs to be
But
posted by the second or package due, I think, on the second.
So I normally would post the packet on the seventh.
So,
The chamber's meeting with Bruce on the fifth because they meet with the city manager quarterly also. So, and I have explained to that meeting. This
Yeah.
morning.
now we could ask Jim Crew if we could make a move.
But those recommendations did make very specific, suggestions,
The
recommendations.
recommendations that were presented in front of the council were, but again, I don't, and maybe I totally missed it. But I don't feel that it was as clear to me that that was my marching orders. My marching orders for sure were in finance, because I like met with them the very next day, but I don't feel that I had as much clarity with regards to the actual contract. I know we did have a series of recommendations, they were brought here, but and maybe I just missed it.
And also there were specific recommendations related to financials and reporting, just to make it easier for us to provide some kind of oversight. I mean, right now, it's just quarter by quarter,
Well, and what we're getting, and no offense, Jim, but what we're getting from the chamber is just the same droning on of the same information. It doesn't tell us anything that we need to know. And it seems pointless to have them come in here and talk for an hour or more. We're not getting any information.
We did have a vote, so I think it's important that.
Did we?
Go. We did make a vote at that meeting, so I think it was 3-2, that's right. So I think we really need to go back and find out when that meeting was, and maybe go back and listen, each of us, go back and listen to that portion.
Did we have a vote, Jim?
Yeah.
I have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
No,
I think that we were in.
We did have a vote.
I don't think we actually.
I don't think that.
I think the,
What?
it
Yes,
was clearly
one
3-2.
plus is right.
We did vote, so.
So that's,
I don't remember voting.
That's right on the
discussion.
It was definitely 3-2.
But, and we'll get on to this later, but then that comes to presentation timelines, but I think that we should give the chamber, going forward, not always put them at the very end of the agenda.
I don't think that's a better pattern.
So that, just, sometimes that does happen because anybody that we advocated coming here, like the funds and the attorney's side was put in the front. And so sometimes unfortunately, it does get weighed heavily with long
That
items
makes
because
sense.
the attorney's on. So that, we try not to do that, but it's just like.
That makes
timing.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point today, before we, leave, can we maybe give you a chance to look up the minutes?
Yeah.
Of that meeting to see whether or not we voted.
No, right here, it says that.
Or you did. And then. Do you think it's possible, do you think it's possible for us to, get this all figured out before the packet is due for the January meeting?
I think it would, the holidays coming up, I think it would probably be a little difficult to meet that timeline. I think if maybe imagine do the first meeting in February, that would probably be a better, more complete time, that give everybody a.
And get it all-
chance.
Get it all taken care of, so that, okay, so Jim, did you want to say something? Fine.
There's a couple points of clarification. Might not be there. This all began last December, when you asked me if we wanted to have a discussion about the contract. And at that time I said, of course, we're having a discussion about the contract. There's been no discussion about the contract in this past year. You guys did a vote and discussed it several times and gave Tim some direction, but we haven't received any of that information or what you guys are recommending to move forward with. So we're still in the dark as to what you want, other than what's happened at public meetings. So we haven't gotten any information on our
But
side.
you
Other than-
definitely got some direction on the reporting changes.
You didn't see our recommendations that we made?
Just what you had in the public meeting, but you guys have discussed that and we've never got any, follow-up from that. But we're happy to do that.
See, that's where we should start, because with those recommendations, we're very specific into Deanna's concern about kind of these presentations that go on and don't really give us what we need.
No.
Those recommendations were intended to solve that. It's like, we get the information we need, which was specified, we see it in advance, and we don't need to see it in advance and then have it all repeated to us during a meeting. So I mean, that's what a lot of those recommendations were intended for.
And I feel like I've always come in here trying to take your recommendation, your thoughts, especially with the financials, to update those and get those to what you guys want to see. So I'm not ignoring recommendations at all. I want it to be smooth, consistent. But from our perspective, we're always trying to put in there what is required of the contract. So we're trying to meet those requirements so that you have all the information, which I feel are the meat and bones of all of that contract. If we need to update that, I certainly want to update that. But we need to have that open conversation so that I can meet what you guys want.
Absolutely, this is just falling through the cracks.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That we can,
And I just need, with a better outline of what you guys expect, I guess.
I think we need to come back to those recommendations, because it was pretty spelled out, whether we approve them all as a council was another. I don't think we did follow it.
Let's see, we'll get, yeah.
Somebody's right, and it's okay who is.
Doesn't matter.
Right?
Yeah. So would it be, depending on the outcome of Jen's research, would it be appropriate to have it on the January 13th meeting of what the recommendations were? And then we could vote on it if we haven't voted on it. And then in February, we can have a new report based on those recommendations and then move forward that way. Would that work?
That. So I
So, just getting it back on track.
that
Conversation.
completely works for me. I do know that, I've had at least one, probably two conversations with Jim, and I've given him positive information to go forward, and it hasn't happened. And so, the accounting, there's just been a few things that I've tried to help you with, and it was like, I really wanted to help, and it would have been really helpful, and, it hasn't happened. And so I think really taking the recommendations seriously and implementing them. Whether you agree with them or not, unfortunately, sometimes we have to implement things, and I've tried to have conversations, and I just really felt like kind of fell on deaf ears. So just so you know that, I think it's.
So I'm happy to have those conversations because I always want to make things better, present things better and create a better, more professional product. So, I'll come and talk to you again.
Well, but we've had those, I think we've all had those conversations, and that's a response, and I genuinely feel that you feel that way, but,
So, yeah, can you give us an example of a recommendation that you made?
oh, it's been,
I think it's hard to.
hey, yeah, it's a little hard to go back, but just one prime example is the last meeting. When I told Jim, I was like, let's keep it short. You know, a lot of this we've seen, and granted, there was a new marketing manager here, and he said, absolutely, and then she went on for an hour. Where that could have been pared, you know, it could have very easily been pared down, reviewing those things, so. That was all information that we already had, that was given to us. There were some financial things that I had, talked to him about that never went anywhere. I'll be them, well, no, I guess not small, but you know, good information. I felt like it got written down on a pad of paper and it was never going to. So. I am a little bit concerned. I think there's, maybe instead of just recommendations, there's a part of me that feels like it kind of needs to really be spelled out exactly what we expect.
Great.
In the agreement is, I mean, that was the
Yeah, I mean-
intention, is those recommendations were intended for us to modify the agreement, so
Mm-hmm.
that the reporting, requirements in the contract were more something that would, give us a clear picture.
I think maybe as something as an addendum, I think that Lisa might agree that, you can put so much into a contract. That it just becomes, I mean, a contract is a contract. You shouldn't have to spell out every last little, you know. I dot and T cross, but you could do an addendum that gives a syllabus, if you will, of what's expected on each reporting.
It was a contract revision to replace item number 7 with something that would be. There wouldn't be any question. You would know exactly what we'd asked for, and,
And that's what we're doing. What are the words? Planning, I figured if we.
Yeah, I was talking, I'm gonna find it.
everybody's back on enough.
So, great job. I went back through my agenda list, and so, back in 2024, in July 11th to 24, it was on the agenda, it was asked to be postponed. Then it was discussed on July 9th of 24, and it was a discussion, this is again with the previous council, so it was the three, of you and then,
Well, then I-
So it was discussions about the contract, just, you know, no motions were made. Then in December 10th of 24, there was another discussion. Again, this is still 24, and this is when they had several board members there, Paul Tice, Amber Corbin, Eric, you were there, Elisa. And, they talked about the financial statements, answered questions, discussed the DMO, marketing items, and the possible cap. So that was when it initially was first discussed, and then it said, not Hayes, attorneys, St. Dennis, and Chamber will review contract and rebuts. So that was back in December of 24 that Jim mentioned.
Was there a vote?
No, that was just a discussion. So then let's go to 2025. It was originally on the agenda for April 8th, but it got moved to a future date, which then went to July 8th of 25, and there was a discussion, but not the vote. So, do you want me to read what it says? Okay. I'll summarize the staff report. The executive director, Jim Pino, provided the history of marketing, visitor center, and the DMO, including their funding. Pino highlighted the role of Amber, the accountant, in switching to an accrual basis. He explained that the program has gone along with the community supporting the restaurant industry through visitor economy. Pino emphasized that the work has continued to grow since 2018. Base compared actual spending for the program referencing documents from December 2024. Dana noted that the data was before displayed to the new account and changes to tracking. I really don't know the drivers on that, I'm sorry. A discussion ensued about capping the contract and the importance of tying it to the visitor center. Gavin expressed concerns about micromanagement and the sustainability of the program. Daniel and Collier discussed the improvements in finance reporting and the need for better presentation to the council, discuss the marketing committee's role and the challenges of the budget. There's no.
That was sufficiently vague and left,
So, if you really require, general conversation, so.
Okay, we know where we're at.
I can email, if you guys wanna look at the video from that, I can email you a portion of that video.
I think that is fine.
I'm sure that was. You kind of the same, like the actual conversation.
Yeah, we did vote, we sort of,
More sensitive.
Yeah.
I don't know, I remember Tim saying he's gonna make something happen.
And then I met with Jim and Drew.
Yeah.
I feel like the focus of what we've talked about has been the financial aspect. So the contract and reporting aspect would be something you didn't.
right,
Well,
okay,
whether we need to go back with recommendations.
Yeah.
And. There wasn't very enough time when we discussed those and what would work for us as council to hear and. What we wanna hear at a quarterly meeting instead of, you know, an
The
hour long
same thing,
report or
and it's
something
the
that
same
we read. So that, all those recommendations were designed to help them. So it's just unfortunate that we're a year later still talking about it, but.
so we said that. So, let's recap here. On the January 13th meeting, we're going to have those recommendations that were made in December of last year to present to the council and to formally vote on whether or not we want to go ahead with those recommendations. And then at the February work session, we'll have the chamber, the new and improved chamber report, and we'll work from there. Did I get it? Everybody's. You can try for that. Yeah. Okay.
Right, so
Okay.
for Jim, that's February 10th is the work session.
Yep.
And then I'll email you so we can readjust your date to be with the city manager.
Perfect.
And I've got the agenda update.
Anything else on this topic?
Nate, I just, what date was the recommendations on, what agenda was that on, Jen? Do you know?
July 8th, 2025 was the last time it was spoke about here. And then they talk about a cap on December 10th, they didn't talk about it in July of 2024, also that was a favorite section. But December 10th, 24th, the discussion as well. Wasn't there a vote on in the October meeting? I was here, there was a vote taken in October, or was it October or November? Doesn't say.
24,
Yeah,
25?
no, this year, this year. Okay, I just like to know myself, and it was the chamber.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you guys voted. Okay, let me go back, cause I just looked up the word chamber and that was it. So you're thinking, was it October or November?
It's almost financial report.
What the record?
I was not at
Get it
that.
fresh.
Maybe she should just send them out to us.
I think that might be right.
So in October, we got in the chamber quarterly meeting. Yeah, and it was just a work session.
Yeah.
And there was no vote taken. No, because you can't do a vote during the work session. I had one public hearing item, so that was part of the special meeting. There may be consensus or something. In November, there was a vote taken.
That was just last month.
Yeah.
You think we were gonna? No. Okay. What about percent?
I'll look some more just to make sure, it's like I just searched the word chamber, maybe I need to look at. You know,
Jen, could you send those recommendations, or maybe I don't know when, but, that's something that you could just send to all parties, so
Yeah.
that we can have time to review, and I'm sure they'll be part of the packet too, but. Earlier the better.
That would be great.
Okay, anything else on this topic? Everybody understand what that is?
And I'll double check for
Okay, did you want to say something?
I'm Louise Slaughter, I'm the president of the Chamber Board. And I've heard a lot of city residents here this morning. I want to repair somebody, that we can prepare a document that says these are the items that we need to have answered. And then we can respond to you appropriately.
Yeah, that's what we're working towards.
Okay,
Although, at this point, there's still recommendations.
Right.
pardon me?
At this point, there's still recommendations
Yes,
that
I
we had made,
understand.
there had something that we all agreed that, yes, this is our plan, but.
But I think if we had those in hand, then we would be able to be more prepared for answering your question.
And that will be at the January 13th meeting, that we'll be discussing that. When does the chamber board meet?
Third Wednesday of the month.
Third Wednesday? Okay. Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you. On topic number 2, which is utilizing patent mission for TLT, receiving entities oversight.
So we discussed it briefly at the meeting, I think I added it, they did great, my also added it. For a topic correction discussed today, but,
I didn't add it originally, but
okay, yes, so it must have been my email.
it's been a lot of mine over the years.
And I feel like this kind of also ties in the previous item with the list as well, so, I think it would be more worthwhile to use TAP and I think the previous council would actually provide the direction for TAP to expand their role in doing more TOT related stuff. And I think, having, if the contract, if we go into contract negotiation with the chamber for the DMO contract, modifying it, changing that so that the chamber's reporting to the TAP committee, providing all of this, all that information. If we have additional questions, then whatever quarterly or semi-annually reporting. So something to lessen the burden on us as a council and shifting that more towards TAP. And same thing with the HVAC reporting, and any other things that are getting TAP funding. So I know we had a discussion. Checking with.
You mean TLT fund?
Yes, TLT, that's right, that's
Yeah.
total, the restricted TLT funding, not the 30% that we use out of those increases. But I kind of thought that gives the TAP committee, which generally is filled with people that work in tourism or work with the restricted TLT funds, kind of where their expertise, that's my hope for the TAP committee is to be full of people that their expertise is that the ORS. That was about restricted TLT funding, and so they could then spend the time to investigate and question and all of that stuff, or any restricted TLT funding, and then if there's any, then they provide recommendations, they're like, oh, we recommend you change this, or we recommend, and then council would just act on those recommendations or follow up on questions, as opposed to now I feel like all of that comes to us and it's TAP, it kind of feels like an afterthought for some of the things like, when we had a question about whether or not like HVAC should be funded in part or whole by restricted utility funds, it's. As a. Yeah, I understand, I feel like. Great.
Yeah, I mean, something like HVAC, for example, city department, and all the departments supervised by city managers. And so I'm not sure.
Well, we have the public works committee that, looks at stuff that, for public works, and then provides recommendations, they provide a recommendation for the wastewater or the new wastewater master plan that's coming forward, they provide those recommendations, so they have that opportunity to meet every month to review things as they're progressing, as opposed to all of that coming as piecemeal to us, and then us then approving the final. They then see it piecemeal as it goes along. And then the Public Works Committee, and same with the Parks Committee, they see the things as they are piecemeal coming together, and then when they have had their influence to push it, however they're pushing it, then it comes to the recommendation council. I was just seeing the TAC being potentially used in a similar fashion for restricted TLT funds.
I see, what you're saying.
Yeah, still recommendations, still providing, so they have the opportunity to form whatever the programs that are being funded by restricted TLT funds, and then provide recommendations. That way, we're not sitting here during council meetings, like asking sometimes very surface level questions, some just kind of drawing out our meetings longer, when that all of that could have been explored earlier in a different meeting with a more specialized committee.
I had never thought about it quite that broadly. When I thought about it previously, it was more about how the chamber does presentations to the council board and to council, and everyone's eyes roll back when we're talking about marketing, because, you know, councils are typically not marketing people, and council providing oversight for that. You may not be the best. So I thought that the Tourism and Arts Commission was much more based on the ORS 320.
Yeah.
They're based on marketing, and that they would be better.
And the arts, don't forget the arts.
Yes, yeah. But, I've had that thought that they would be better, but now in the last year, we've started to broaden the conversation, especially with tourism and the arts. And how we can use TLT dollars for, you know, because tourism and arts became an event funder. And not a whole lot else, because I don't think people really understood how it could be used, how it could be used to benefit, our community and still, be appropriate under the law. So now we're starting to think about, how we can do, destination improvement kinds of projects that qualify. So I think the conversation, whether it's, you know, whether they're overseeing all of the TLT spending, or at least that we wrap our heads around, this, idea of destination, development kinds of projects. And I'm interested in hearing more about where that's at this point, but, I think that's a conversation to have.
Yeah.
Do we ask Julie?
Yeah, I have a feeling. So,
Julie, it's easier for you.
I know it's easier for,
And
because my voice doesn't travel at all.
I get respect.
Well, no problem.
So you have a volunteer board of people with jobs, and you guys are too, I get it, but,
Yeah, we are.
that homeowners, you want to oversee the chamber, who are paid professionals to do their jobs. And that makes no sense. I'm more than happy to have the chamber come to TAC and say, we want funding for that bike or whatever, or even if they wanted to do something that was more, destination development like, right? That'd be fine. But it makes no sense for us to receive their presentation quarterly and then come to you guys and go here. I guess,
No, I don't think that's right.
that's what it sounded like. You were saying.
That's talking it through, that's what I was saying.
That's right, you're just
Yeah, no, that's
spitballing.
exactly 100% what I mean. I just feel that TAC is specialized, the skill set that the people we've appointed to TAC pretty much are people that are very familiar with ERs, and I feel like we're potentially underutilizing that skill set that we fostered. And
Well,
I don't know how
I
to
don't know why
utilize
this
it.
isn't here, but that's disturbing, but since he expanded our stuff, we are seeing lots of. Not lots, we're seeing people coming to us for destination things. At our last meeting, we had fired the chief,
Yeah.
talk about the, the new guard tower. Which we all approved, by the way, and so you'll be seeing that at the next meeting. To approve that or not. And so we are, I think it's just sort of started, because people are kind of becoming aware of the fact that, oh, there's money, so we've got. I'm sure we'll have people coming to us for a whole variety of things that maybe don't qualify. But, I would not want to have us be in charge of the chamber, because that doesn't make any sense to me. They need to be in charge of their own thing. They can certainly come to us and when that like is the example, they come to us and we go through their, what do you call it, their midterm report and all that stuff, and then their final report. And ask them if there was problems and all that kind of stuff,
But that's not,
We don't.
those are established, we already have a mechanism. He gets through the grant program.
we do, and it's been discussed, like, for instance, if we approve the tower, you guys come, you guys approve the tower. Does that mean that chief recommends reports to the TAC committee about how it's going? No, I mean, obviously not.
Right.
So there isn't really a way to do that kind of stuff. It's like, for instance, if we were gonna do trails, your big thing. Is it, they come to us and report how they're going on the trails? I would think they would come to council, because you guys are eventually the ones that would approve any recommendation we would make. You guys are where the buck stops. It wouldn't be TAC. But I'm spitballing because that whole expand our, look is all new.
Well,
Right.
so with the department heads, like, we get staff recommendations from department heads, well, the department heads are paid city employees. And so I understand what Julie's saying.
Yeah, so those
about-
trails, Public Works would come and talk about how it's going,
Or parks.
or parks, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe a combination of the two, depending on what's happening.
Yeah, which we've done those kinds of.
Where then those that are involved in TAC would then be giving. They would be setting themselves up for some legal liability, I would think.
They would be making the final approval, but
Not the final approval, but they would still be making the recommendations to council, and that's what they shouldn't be doing.
I just, your comment about staff,
That's not illegal.
Well, and not only that, but the attorney, so for instance, the attorney has to look over all, for instance, on the guard tower.
Right.
The attorney had, we were like, I think we can make it because it's mostly tourism based. Chief Reckman had all the thousands of people that he's made contact with and saved them from drowning. That's all, and none of them live here. So obviously it's tourist based rather than, for instance, real property. So we're not going the real property route, we're going the tourist based route. So the attorney has already looked at that. So our recommendation to you is based on, with the attorney's blessing of, yes, it's tourist based.
Yeah, I know it's not illegal for them to make a recommendation, I think that it's starting diving a little too deep into this.
or your comment about staff, I've also thought that, a staff person, let's nominate Tim. To, we nominate you for everything else. To oversee, the tourism in our fund and be making recommendations to us rather than us trying to provide that oversight with so many things is another thought that I've had, as well.
I
So
feel
I
like Tim wants to say something.
Just wanted to clarify, so essentially we have 4 pots of TLT funds that have essentially separate type of activities. So you have the TAP fund, which is the 1%. You have the one that we passed through the chamber. You also have the 1.5%, which currently is set aside for CBE. Right, so that's where dedicated, but we haven't really spent anything. And then the last one you have, last spot you have is the county TRT money. Nat funds currently pays for, debt on CDE plus is where the money, this year transfers for the Atrium program. So that's kind of the four possible restricted TRT. Yeah, just one of them.
And I guess,
So first clear.
were you just making that point or did you have more?
That was it.
Okay, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I think we should be having this conversation is because. I mean, if we continue to move forward with Nakus, the way we've been talking about, that kind of takes care of some of that money. In the bank now, or is coming in over the next year, essentially, was the way I was looking at it. But after that, we've got all of these areas where the tourism restricted dollars are coming in and just us taking a more complete view of that and how we want to use it. And how best to manage it, because I agree with Julie that there's a somewhere between a challenge and dysfunction of having these changing boards and committees, providing oversight. I mean, it's a challenge for council. It's a challenge for chamber board. It's a challenge for chamber marketing committees. It's just a difficult thing to do when you've got, that kind of changing turnover and variety of experiences and, but over the next few years, I mean, as been what we looked at is how much, the tourism funds grow, and they grow pretty consistently, not every year exactly, but over time, they grow pretty significantly. And so over the next 10 years, what are those going to look like? I guess is why we've had all these conversations. We've had conversations about the chamber and how much money is going into marketing, the tourism and arts fund, that how much money comes in annually.
570, about 500.
570
right now.
And there's about 250 in requests currently.
And we have 100,000, the tap forward agreed, 100,000 goes to, for the maintenance of the public restrooms. So we
We've
was
kind of been piecemealing it and using it here and there, but I think just a more collective approach and towards all these stuff.
I think that was my thought process and my initial spitballing of using TAC for that. I guess it's probably that we're only a year into this revised format and we really haven't had an opportunity to see what's going on, so I'm just jumping ahead, saying that they're not doing enough or not being assigned enough stuff. But yeah, a more cohesive approach to it, and like I said, my first thought was using TAC to be that cohesive approach, but that may not be the right great mechanism.
Started with bathrooms, so, we agreed to give the money to them
Yeah.
for bathrooms, and then Public Works takes it and runs it,
Yeah.
right? There's no reason for us to be involved in this,
That's great.
because it's Public Works.
Yeah.
So I think your commission needs to be the recommending, not the oversight.
Yes. I
And
mean, we oversight on those events, so, right,
But
because
there's
there's a,
that, I meant the improvement of the destination.
and me, I haven't thought it all the way through, because this meeting is just happening, but maybe there's a place where we would do oversight, if there was something, I can't imagine, because most of the stuff that I'm imagining people would ask for would be stuff that would either go to Parks or Public Works or, and go from there and not be reporting to us, but reporting to you guys.
Right.
So,
or as Gary suggested, maybe going to Martin FTE that oversees those funds.
and you have some serious money in this
Yeah.
contract currently, so.
Right, so it would almost need somebody to just manage that, I mean, on a part-time basis. At the city level, maybe. And then they could give a staff, like Gary was saying, then they could give a staff recommendation and then that.
I think I think if we were to try, to Eric's point, the more comprehensive view over all the TRT funds, and then we have a strategy of what we're going to do. then I can see where you could have bring somebody in to help kind of, funnel that along. But at this stage, probably, it's really good to help just, you know, as the council develops what the strategy is, because it's, you know, with the, I mean, if Nicoos does go forward, you know, that really, for the most part, takes that 1.5% up. So now you've just got kind of two usable buckets, which are path and character. So.
Well, like to the point of getting rid of the, yeah, it would take 1.5 out, the. Budget for this period, put together, still kind of leaves that 1.5 in play, you know, 2 years, 3 years, you know, like they essentially come back into play.
Yeah.
At that point, because
In the school or whatever happens back there, yeah.
when it's constructed and done 2 years from now. That one comes back in play, or about 750,000 a year coming in.
But some of it will be remaining, so.
For sure, yeah.
So where are you in the process of trying to expand with the local and other ideas?
People coming to us. We've had a couple of emails about some things that we've said no to. Trying to think of, the last one was the guard tower. Seemed like there was something else. It wasn't the bathrooms, I'm not remembering.
But like what kind of people are coming forward?
The two that one suggested bike racks and somebody, well, vaguely, actually Greg Swedenberg was suggesting covering the tennis courts. But we haven't gone anywhere with that. He's like, that's a good idea, and it's just sort of, you know, nobody's talked about it yet. But the chief is I think the first one that's come and talked about it. And actually presented it with, you know, data and stuff like that.
The first written presentation.
The
Finished with the-
presentation, and then maybe read an email, somebody talks about bike racks. And we decided to go on there. The public art fund, we are going ahead with that, actually, I think we finally, after having it on the agenda for almost a year. Finally are coming to you with finished, wording for that.
Okay.
Because, City Hall is gonna need some art, we decided the police station will, probably doesn't need the art, but the City Hall will, so we wanted to get that done, so that, we will have finished stuff for you on that, so.
So
That's it so far.
nothing necessarily from parks,
No,
because that
I'm
just.
actually kind of surprised that Parks hasn't come in with an idea. And I keep up on council meetings. But I don't watch the park meetings. I have a life, so I don't want to sit and watch the meetings my whole life.
Yeah, I think there may be some things with the police that relate to public art.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't know what's happening with that one, but obviously that's another place where there would be art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Well,
totally makes sense.
what should we do with this? Because I think it's clear we need to take a bigger, wider view of all of these dollars, and as Eric was saying and I was saying, that 1.5 in 2 years is going to be, you know, a significant amount of money. Our tourism and arts fund, the county money. The county money right now is debt service and HRAP.
Right.
But
But still,
it will obviously have a little bit of.
so essentially with the county TRT between debt service and HRAP, you've got, that's the yearly amount that comes in, so. But you still have about almost $2 million in that account that can be spent on any TRT related activities.
In. From the debt service, from the bond.
So the bond right now is already covered, so what, we get about roughly $570,000 a year from the county, give or take.
Yeah.
So the debt service is roughly $244,000 of that, and then we have about $330,000 that goes to cover Park HRAP. Right, so essentially, right now, you cover the debt service and HRAP just on ongoing revenues, you're not hitting the ending fund balance or anything like that. So then, at the bottom of that is about almost $2 million. that is again usable for TRT funding.
There was dollars that had been previously been banked.
Yeah.
Prior to the bond.
Correct.
Prior to
Yeah.
beginning spending.
Like the reserve, like a reserve for
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
So
So
it wasn't the money set aside for the cruise project.
not for that one. It just part of the debt service was, and that's really the debt service that's from the original $4 million bond. And so that debt service, is, again, 244, and you receive almost double or more than double that in a given year.
So I guess coming back, how can we move this conversation forward to?
Maybe have Tim give us a staff recommendation on what how he thinks we should make this flow,
Sure.
get this to flow.
Yeah, sure, fine.
I think we can pull together all the available PRT funds, what they're currently projecting to spend. I think probably a refresher on what they can be used for. And then, then you guys can just make some direction or.
And maybe a good way to
Excuse me.
manage them going forward, like how,
Sure.
since we're in kind of an impasse stage, it
Yeah,
sounds like.
because we have like the county TRT is in a separate fund, but that doesn't happen that way. Because they're all TRT related funds. It's just for tracking purposes in the past, that's what they did. So,
Who could be in charge of making those recommendations, who could, what that looks like in 12 to
Yeah.
36 months.
it will probably won't.
May on 10 hills, some,
Well,
date for some
yeah, it might
recommendations.
stay the same.
When I almost think it has to be done before, it should be done before the March budget meeting,
Budget, okay,
because that's,
Mhm.
so we can get that done before. then.
so what I can do, because I think the January work session is pretty full right now. What I could do is bring some recommendations, a little presentation to the February work session. Potentially, and then get some further direction for the 26-27 budget cycle.
Right.
So we can do that.
Keep us talking about it and,
Yeah.
something disappear.
I think, and it's one of the things that I commented on when I gave the financial report. Is when we look at all those ending fund balances, and then I'm gonna start reporting them in their groups.
Right.
So that you have a better idea really how much funding is available. Overall, because it's a little harder when it's kind of piecemeal, so if we kind of bring that together, then that gives you guys a bigger picture, so that'll be important.
Okay.
Can't believe I just signed some more work.
No.
Thank you.
So honestly, I was. Tim mentioned setting himself over, I was kind of seeing. This potentially being the recommendation from, and I don't know if this is what would happen, but a recommendation for. Like, Deanna mentioned, another part-time employee, but that's, in the finance department, that's specifically what they included.
And the one advantage of having that employee is it could be funded by TRT, so.
I mean, yeah, so that's kind of, it doesn't. Potentially doesn't increase the workload. The more work for the February meeting as well, I was commenting, on not long term.
But in the long term, it'll.
We'll have a long, no, I'm good.
But I'm very cognizant of the amount that we rely on you for so much. When you do look at that.
Well, thank you very much. So, yeah, so February work session, we'll come forward with all the TRTs, what it's available for, kind of projections over the next few years, and then, we'll have some recommendations, and then give us some direction for the 26-27 budget cycle. Sound good?
Yes.
Yeah. That cover everything on that top.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie. Guys, I want to remind the audience members that if there is anybody that's on Zoom, I don't think there is, but this is a hard room to hear. So if you guys can keep your talking down,
I would appreciate it.
Okay, so next we have the topic of housing. Long-term strategies and funding.
We also have one should be working right now, or do you want to get that done first?
I don't want it to be a short item.
Want to move the 20-minute break?
Sure. Is that okay, good? Okay. Okay, 20 minutes. So we're reconvening, after a short lunch break, and we're talking about housing, long-term strategies and funding. So I thought I would start out with an update from the regional, task force that I go to meet those meetings. We didn't have a meeting in November and December. We'll go back in January. Probably the biggest unfortunate piece of news and all of that is the county housing director has taken another position. And, at a Cedar meeting, the assistant county manager said that position probably would not fill, which is very disappointing to us. But I thought we would probably discuss it at the regional, meeting in January about how important we think it is for them to fund that position.
Is it because of funding that it won't be filled?
Yes, yeah, but I mean, that's just a remark made at another meeting that from the assistant county manager.
And where do you know where she went?
She went to Thurston County in Washington.
Oh,
And so another piece of unfortunate news is that the county did not get the grant from CARE to do the lease to locals program. And so, before the county housing manager quit, she was going to look at other sources of grants, and I haven't had an update on whether or not she applied for any other grants.
can you tell us why we did it?
Because their federal funds was cut.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And then, so the lease to locals, program director has asked at the regional level whether or not each city would like to come up with some funding for it, but that's in the discussion stages. So those are things at the regional level.
I appreciate that update. Yeah, I've been watching the last couple regional housing task forces. I didn't realize that we had not received the grant. That was actually one of my questions.
Yeah.
I didn't think of
Yeah.
talking, I've seen you an update on that, but that is a very unfortunate update.
Yeah.
I think with that, honestly, we should really discuss putting some money towards that. I really think that that's a program that could be valuable.
Yeah, I do too.
Lease to locals?
Yes.
It's a valuable piece of the puzzle.
Well, and the nice thing I think about that program is that if nobody, hopefully people will step up and participate, but if they don't, we're not out any funds.
Mhm.
It's the funding becomes important when somebody gets involved.
When people actually use the program.
Right,
And realistically, I don't think it's certainly not gonna solve our workforce housing problem.
but we have to look at every
Yeah, but
avenue.
think of it as maybe 3 or 4 houses.
I think I agree with you, Lisa. I think that it's gonna be harder for somebody to be a landlord. To jump on the program. That's gonna be the big hurdle, right?
And have no use of the house themselves.
Right,
So,
yeah.
But again, if it gives us, up to, 4 or 5 places even one would. Everything helps. Yeah. So other.
So no, I just wanted to comment that it's been frustrating and discouraging. Myself, I felt frustrated and discouraged watching. I don't know what our answer is to do something, but it's been frustrated and discouraged watching Seaside and Earhart and Manzanita do things. We, in our budget meeting, we said, hey, let's move over, moved over 500,000 over into a housing fund, and we're almost back to budget cycle again and didn't do anything with those funds, so it kind of felt performative. The
It sounds, it sounds great.
okay, we provided money to Oak Creek, which that's fantastic. So I mean, so
I wanted an update anyway, even though.
yeah, but it's been frustrating over the last like year, basically watching this program break ground, that program, get a lot of public, it's like that in other communities, not things that, and we have been approached in the past by an organization to support them, I think it was
Seaside.
with, no, I think it was Chet Morris's.
Oh.
No, one of the Seaside, yeah, that are Chet. The one in Lewis County, which also is an interesting, anyway, but it's like, I feel like, I don't know if we're not providing a care or like welcomeness to organizations to come and present to us about stuff that they're doing in terms of that sort of housing, or if we're not, we don't have the
What we have
framework
to
set
have,
up.
what Ted has made clear from the beginning is you have to have land owned by the
Right.
city to do a project like that. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
We don't get any
With a
grants,
commercial.
so you have to like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you have to have, and if Cannon Beach still, has not. There's never really been an honest discussion about using a portion of the RV park or across the highway or anything.
I think
That's a
it's,
lot more
I think
difficult.
it's time to open the discussion
Yeah.
about the portion of the RV park.
Yeah, because
there's
across the highway has engineering issues that will make it much more expensive to build, whereas the RV park.
The one thing about the RV park is, and I agree with opening up that conversation, and there's at least 8 lots at the back of it, but all the sewer and plumbing would need to be, water.
Oh, yeah.
Would need to be redone, right?
Right,
Because it's
true.
only for this individual small.
well, and many of those grants that Chet has discussed in the past and other organizations have discussed in the past, many of those grants, as long as the land is dedicated to this particular thing, to this organization to do,
They will
the
have to
housing,
do that.
they can get grants specifically for infrastructure,
Yeah.
for housing.
I think the biggest challenge right now, you guys just talked about is what grants are available. Clearly, we're looking at state grants, not things that are federally funded.
Right.
But, and do we get together with somebody in Manzanita or in Arch Cape that will come together with us and do something like the project that Chet talked about at Arch Cape? Or, I know that Randy Neal came up with, an idea about a land trust for buying back our own property. And our housing costs have gotten so high, I think as we limit those SDRs, that our housing prices are gonna come down a little, because people aren't going to be able to make income on those new properties that they're buying as they're coming in, they're actually gonna have to live here. We know that there's people that can afford just to have a second home and that's been proven, but buying back some of these small properties that are rehabs or whatever, through a trust and leasing them back to people that actually work in the community.
I'm glad you bring up his suggestion, the community housing trust, I think, community housing trust, community land trust, whatever it is, has been an effective tool. It's not something that the council is integrally involved with, aside from approving grants going good or and stuff, maybe being one of the board seats among the trust, but other places like, in the Methow Valley and Washington, they have this whole area that's a very, like around Winthrop area, that's very heavily tourist influenced, and they have a few housing trusts that have been very successful in providing housing to locals at a much more reasonable rate, and it's through this third party housing trust that receives grants from the cities that are within the area to fund itself, along with private donations and all that stuff.
Well, I think that's a great idea, but I think we can't just push the idea of the using part of the RV park and hoping that a land trust develops here. I think that, you know, Chet has a nonprofit already set up to do this work, to get funding, to investigate funding, to find out where it's available. But it can't happen, and it doesn't pencil out at all unless they have the land.
Well, I think the RV park and the land trust are two different,
Two
two different
different
pieces to this puzzle, like that, this, the
But I don't
RV park
I
in the
don't want to
city.
reject the idea of the RV
Oh,
park,
yeah.
just, you know, just throw it on the back burner because, oh, maybe someone will do a land trust.
Oh, that was,
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like these two locals, that's another piece to this puzzle of housing, how do we?
But the one we have, excellent control is the RV park.
And Chet is very active in the regional
Mhm.
meetings
Yeah.
when it comes to those.
Should we, hear about Elk Creek? I think the one thing that we can do now is make sure that our existing spaces are maximized.
Yes.
What is that gonna take?
So we've been playing back and forth. They have been, working on both some overall funding of the project and for, getting their, construction needs analysis completed. So I actually talked to them. Talking with the counselors, why I was with the counselors, so they were ready to move forward with, because the 300,000 that we had set aside for them was to bring those 2 units back online. As they've gone into their CNA, there are issues, facility-wide.
Issues what?
Issues facility-wide, so the whole place is, the 2 that we were gonna refurb are currently uninhabitable, but the rest is inhabitable, but kind of in really rough shape. So as they put together their CNA, they realized that this is gonna be a much larger project. So they came to me that day and said, we'll do the 2 units, but then we'll have to move the people out because we have to do this whole project. I said, I think council would be very interested in hearing about the whole project and being able to participate in that with the 300,000. So you don't have to spend it right now, but then you have to come and present your whole thing to them. And so they're coming to the March 10th work session to update council about the whole project. So they're getting funding from different sources right now. And so then we would just move those funds, because I don't think they could start construction until like July or August. So, but then they're gonna do the whole facility. And so then we would just move those budget funds, the council would just move those budget funds in the next year, and they would do it in the
You
next
say
summer.
they're getting funding, do you have any idea where the?
I don't, I
Is there any
didn't,
funding?
no, they have, the person that they brought in, I can't remember his name now, is some regional expert on the coast, I don't know. But he said, yeah, he said this is a much bigger project, and so and I said, well, I think the council would be very interested in it, they need to hear from you, so you need to talk about the project. The funding is fungible, we can move it from one year to another, no sweat, but council would like to know what's going on.
Maybe that needs more funding.
And potentially that they could be, but they're coming to the March 10th, I think it's March 10th, work session to give you an update on the entire project.
So.
You said one little piece that went really quick, and I wanna go back and clarify what you said. They're gonna have to move everybody out to do the other part of the project.
No, what they would have to do is they would build the 2 new, places, they would have to put somebody in, but then they would have to move them back out because they would move people into those projects.
Okay,
So, yeah, they don't have to move everybody out, but if they did it, they would just have to, they bring your family in, just have to move there. Is the way they explained it to me.
that
So-
makes sense.
Is it in general that information, good information, they have a CNA complete and they think they have funding?
Yeah,
Is that?
It felt to me, the conversation I had with them, that it was very positive for the overall project. It's just more on the timing, so they were I think they were more concerned that they would have to spend the 300,000 right now. But I think the timing for them is really construction probably in the summer, at least that's the way it was explained to me.
So we probably it must be state funding for private foundations, or,
I do not know,
well,
yeah,
I know, I mean, it's very positive in the past, but I think that.
Yeah, it felt, this, the conversation, that it's not, at least it felt that progress was being made. And it was a positive conversation, that's what it felt to me, so, but like I said, I told them that they have to come back to the council, give them an update on the project, so they're doing that.
I've talked to a couple of the tenants that said that the way that they're managing the property now is so much better. That if there's, somebody's parked in their spot, it gets immediate attention, and so the existing residents are very happy with what happened.
I'm quite impressed with Jamie, their overall facility person.
Yeah.
I think she's a real go-getter, so I feel very positive. I think it's going in the right direction, at least that's what I think.
So financially, look like they're stable and obviously they're getting grants, but, or at least pursuing grants.
Yeah, I think Dan Brown, who was the executive director, was on the phone call too. He wasn't like running in panic or anything like that, so I think he felt very positive. But again, they just wanted to make sure that, they would say, well, we'll do the 2 units, but it really wouldn't make sense right now, makes more sense in a couple of months.
I think they're gonna need more, I think they're gonna need to come to us for more money. I don't think pursuing grants and getting grants, and totally just, especially, yeah.
So that fund right now has $951,000 and $500,000 transfer. 300,000 essentially is earmarked for the Elk Creek project. But other than that, that's what's available right now.
I just wanna feel comfortable that they're financially in a good place and we're not just.
And then-
throwing money.
Right, and that's the other part of it, is we'll actually have an agreement that council would approve when we actually start talking about transferring money.
Yeah.
We've had our attorneys have shared with them, but we haven't hammered anything out yet, because we just didn't know.
And we probably haven't received the grants yet, so we need to find out what to do. And if they, and then see what kind of position, and I think it's premature to say everything's going great.
It is, to me, nice to hear that Dan wasn't running. Because he kind of was,
Oh, yeah.
when we first heard from them, they were pretty much like, that's it, it's over, yes, this isn't gonna happen,
It just sounded more positive, and, I'm glad, that we're talking, so that was good. Again, I want them to come before council, just to give you guys an update, so you can, with them with questions instead of me.
So back to the thank you, Jim. I'm afraid they're gonna find some more, I agree with Lisa, they're gonna find more things as they actually get into the units that they're moving people out of.
Because it hasn't been properly.
Well, and you have,
We're in
the people who've lived there some of them have lived there as long as they've been up there. And they just mind their life and they do what they do and they don't bring attention to themselves, so. But that's great news. So housing, middle housing. I think we're not looking at affordable housing for town, we're looking more for middle housing.
Right, that's affordable housing, is
Right.
what Elk Creek is. Middle housing is a whole different workforce, middle, it's called both.
Yeah, so. I agree that we need to come up with, we really need to start looking at the RV park. Dave Pieka said something to me about it, he's like, you have ideas, bring them to council. That was several months ago when he started this other project here on the corner, I mean, they officially started it. So that's something to, that's something to look at, but what else can we do? I mean, we need something, there's been talk about building the dorm, like, almost like dormers, like studio apartments above some of the. Businesses.
It's
The
in
problem,
the dorm.
the problem currently we have with that is our code doesn't permit that because of parking. You have to provide 2 parking spaces for dwelling units, so these downtown buildings. That, I think, blanking on his name now.
Aaron.
Aaron Matusik has mentioned it a dozen times that if he could get around the parking requirements in the downtown area, he could build units on top of his building. It's right here behind us,
Like studio
the
apartments.
whatever size
Studio.
housing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know what his intentions would be for any of that additional stuff, but that is a limitation that currently exists for expanding the multi-use,
Right, that was Marcy's,
multi-usability of downtown.
right, Marcy's whole plan was to get rid of parking downtown for building units above businesses. And building in the dormer, which would give more space possibility, depends on the configuration of the house or the building if they didn't have a dormer, but anyway, or, place for it. But it was, the very first thing would be to get rid of the parking requirements downtown, which is what Portland did essentially.
Just for those, well, Portland has a mass transit system too, I think.
That's
Right.
true.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but. So something like that would need to be done just for those dwellings, not for the
Well, it was
businesses.
part of her whole plan, I mean, that can be separated out, that can, there's no reason that that area couldn't be separated out as a test case or whatever, but she had talked about using spruce as a test, that one block of spruce across from the tennis courts and the park as the test area to see how it works. Get rid of the, parking requirement, permit building in dormer, using that as part of your, square footage.
How many did, and maybe Aaron said something about how many units that could possibly bring to
He
town.
didn't say, but Aaron is a developer. And so. It's. They have, a developer says, well, yeah, I'm gonna build middle housing. And then finds out that they can indeed build something that was way more expensive and make a lot more money. So, and I'm not saying he would do that, I'm just saying it's. It seems to me that whoever is going to get the advantage of using this test case would have to agree upfront that they're not, that that's what they're gonna build, middle housing apartments. Period, that they can't all of a sudden realize, oh, this is costing more than I thought, so now I'm gonna have to charge $1 million for this one, and you know what I mean, it's just.
And here you have $1 million condo that's sitting on the corner over there above Dina's that has been on the market for almost 2 years, it's just not selling and they won't rent it out. Because of the,
So, where's it, which one is that?
above Dina's shop on the corner. Was it David's even? Was it David Fry's unit maybe that's for sale above Dina's?
Oh, where David Fry used to live?
Is that his condo that's for sale? Okay.
No.
Oh,
His
it's a different one.
So
Anyway. Just over, is that?
Yeah,
first
I
one?
was,
First
listed and it's $1,000,001.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's been on the market for a long time.
What's the square footage? I mean, roughly.
Is it
I
like
don't
2,000?
I know I'm gonna be putting one on the market, in February, and it's gonna be in the 7s. Or 6, high 6s.
But then you have these folks that moved into town, right, and they bought at the height of whatever, and now. They don't need it, or they're not gonna use it, or they wanna use the money for something else, and now they can't get out of their property for what they even paid for.
Yeah.
That's probably where that's at, because that price hasn't come down a little, but not a lot. That's one thing the STRs are gonna help us with, capping that. Well, even if we don't just putting a cap on it without really even changing it much, it's gonna change the way, it's gonna change housing. It's gonna make a little bit more available to people that wanna live, you know, that actually wanna live and work. Um, But those are all, what can we do in the fast track? You know, we need housing.
Well, the housing code is coming along. So what, March? Fifth, March, you just put that up?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
March. Yeah,
But
there wasn't, I didn't, I can't, I mean, at this point, I can't tell. I know it was very fraught at the planning commission level. And a lot of, you know, and they passed it despite that. I don't know. What this council's gonna do, they're gonna think it's, you know, I actually, you know. To tell you the honest truth, Eric and I were both on the group that worked on it with Marcy. And I couldn't think of anything better, but I'm not so sure it's gonna work. I just don't know. It just depends, but the price of land here. Is someone going to wanna develop middle housing duplexes on a piece of property when they can make much more money building a, you know, really fancy home on it? I don't know. I mean,
what was, planning commission's big thing?
huge debate, because part of the deal is all the give backs. What you give back in the big one is that you get more FAR if you build, you know, 2 units or 3 units. And so, and that would require limiting the FAR for single family dwelling. And that caused a huge uproar from a lot of people, didn't want to see that
The
happen.
planning commission didn't want to reduce FAR for single family?
No, they did.
Well, they fast forward the packets with some very minor modifications to us, so we'll see at some point, I'm sure. But my understanding while watching that meeting was that they thought that the conversation that they were starting to have was a conversation better had at the council level with a broader audience, with the council attracts as opposed to the more limited audience that the planning commission attracts.
It was pretty full.
And it was definitely, but in general, the council gets a broader audience than the planning commission. And so that was my understanding of why they were like, let's stop debating and we'll move this on to council, recommend. That was how I kind of saw that conversation going.
Yeah.
But there was no resolution from them on some of the more, for lack of a better word, provocative portions of that, of the packet which includes the FAR reduction, what the give backs actually mean and how they're implemented,
That parking.
so that was kind of, I think, where they were at, they wanted us as a council to debate those and present that in front of the public as opposed to the planning commission.
And the thing that I thought was interesting is there was a lot of people in the audience that spoke against the reduction of FARs. They didn't have any, and then also said, oh, we need middle housing, but didn't offer any solution. Like, if you're not gonna, what other give backs would you have? How would you do this? And they're really, you know, it was just more complaining about the idea of doing that. But nothing, no alternative ideas, you know, which really frustrated me because, you know, these are Marcy, you know, spent well over a year coming up with this, and this isn't new. She didn't make it out of thin air. It's been done in many other places. So she was just, you know, seeing how it would fit into Cannon Beach. And that's why she wanted a group of people to talk to this, you know, from various walks of life to see how they would receive it. She got a lot of feedback from everybody, everyone. I think that particular committee, everyone spoke a lot.
I think
Yeah.
that's why I really wanted to have Marcy come on the meeting instead of the fifth to give a
Yeah.
full rundown of what those mean and how the group came and try to walk through how the group came to the decisions of a reduction of FAR in order to provide it as a give back to try to get more house, like to walk through those decisions. And so I hope that goes the way I'm hoping to go, that she can give a full understanding to
Yeah,
the five of us and also.
she needs a microphone.
But the code is what, I think we've got a little bit here in this conversation, but the code is again, one of the small pieces that what prevents additional housing from going in, the kite shop that was demoed because it was in bad shape. Sits as an empty gravel lot because
They can't.
they can't do anything, our.
And so that
restricts so
small
much.
part of the code is actually a huge
It's
problem.
making a significant impact.
Yeah.
The housing group, when we were discussing this stuff, was presented with the test case of the service station, Gary Service Station, because it was for sale at the time when the group began to discuss. And there was some presentations of what it would take, what current mixed use is available on that lot with the current rules. And you can only get 1 unit or 2 units of housing on it because of the amount of, parking, all of the things that go into it, and then here are some suggestions for changes. That you could then get 6 units, you could get 8 units of housing, but not really take up that much more of the lot. Than what would have to be developed
And
so,
not have to go high.
and it's relatively, so,
Still preserve the look of the town, which was an important factor in this particular town, because that's one of the things that brings all the tourists in.
Well,
Is how cute it is. And so
That's
you-
true, yeah,
and so-
and I think that the dormers would only, something like that would only add to the.
Dormers are cute.
Community, they are.
And so, yeah, but it was really, I mean, she really thought it through. I mean, I think the parking issue is a big one. That's a lot of people expressed dismay over not requiring parking for duplexes and, or very limited parking. Reducing the amount of parking available for people who live in a place and, there's a lot of things that, a lot of. I mean, you have to. I guess the town has to decide. The community has to decide they really want middle housing or workforce housing and are willing to put up with some inconveniences like the parking issue in order to do it.
Well,
And if they're not, then it won't happen.
Parking needs to be addressed simultaneously too.
well, I think parking as a whole needs to be addressed, right, because we all know that.
Yeah.
We've known that forever, but. Maybe looking at the smaller picture of that, which is. The bigger picture is just for this. Do we look at, how much. Can't find my words where I have it on that, but not having a parking requirement or a very small parking requirement for, not businesses that is under. But just for those residential buildings. And really look at that, because that's the only way we're gonna get past.
The test
That requirement.
law. Yeah, so I think that, yeah, and it seemed to me that also a lot of the people who came in, not all, but a good percentage of them were also second homeowners who didn't like the idea of, reducing FAR because a lot of them were the ones who had the money to build big houses, and as vacation homes, and so I mean, it was kind of a mixed bag,
I think the people that have, because when did. Jen, you haven't, there's an email you sent me, but I think it was in 93 when it went from 50 to 60. The FAR, went from 50 to 60, and it's been at 60 since then.
there was an attempt in early 2000s.
To change it?
4, 5, something like that, to go back to 0.5.
Yeah.
With resistance, and then it never ended up occurring.
Yeah, and. I mean, that was the height of everybody has to have a big house. Keeping up with the Joneses, everybody was, even those who couldn't afford it.
Oh, no, there was a statement made, you have to have a suite for each child needs their own bath. That was a statement that was made in a meeting.
I wish. Oh, that's rich, in the most literal way. Anyhow, but I don't see a problem with the 0.46. FAR, I don't see a problem with that, I think there should be something grandfathered in, and I think the bulk of the property has been used to build on in town anyway. So what is
Exactly.
there is there, and if you buy something that's 1,500 square feet and you decide you wanna build a bigger house, well, 1,000 more square feet's a lot of house
Right.
than what you're buying. But I've driven past a lot of places that there's barely a tree on the property, you can't see. It's a lot line to lot, basically.
Yeah, and I think that. The kind of building that's taking place now is a lot of people are buying up the little cottages that are on the property. They take them down and then they build a large house. There's so much right around my neighborhood that's happened time and time again. They build this huge house. It looks huge to me. And, you know, where there was a really adorable single-story cottage before then, you know, it's now cute with decks all around and, you know, I mean, it's, I mean, I'm thinking right now in the climate we're in right now, that is probably going to dissipate somewhat, but I don't, hopefully, that's only gonna last a matter of years before we get back to some kind of reasonable economy. So right now, people are, you know, the middle income people are running scared that rich people are getting richer, so.
Yeah. Hearing that, but being able to get, we've gotta have some kind of housing.
I do think the reduction of the FAR. As. An incentive to get more dwelling units is the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I do have concerns that. If we put too many restrictions on it, that it's not going to. No, we're not gonna take advantage of it, and all we get is smaller houses, which I, some people, you know, that's a big win for them. But I think more. Dwelling units is the bottom line. More
And that's
duplexes,
what you're
more
talking about.
ADUs.
And I have to say that, you know, we have, our new planning director, Jeff, is very code oriented.
Yes,
He's someone who
and he knows.
is
our-
he's eager to work forward. He always has been,
and
and that might
honestly,
be a big help for us.
but when he was here previously, the public benefits provisions was something he had already pushed
Right,
for. So something specifically around, it may not be exactly what we'll move forward with my commissions, come back to us. But something along those lines of getting to give back for a public benefit.
I hope he adds some energy to that debate. I know I was very sad to see him go at the time because it's like, okay, we can do something about housing.
Right.
And then he left.
and everything else, oceanfront, the whole oceanfront riprap thing we went through because
Yeah,
of the ambiguity of the code. He is on that. He understands how that works. He understands what the problem is. And he'll follow when we get to the discussion of values, he will follow whatever the values of the council are. He's not gonna go off on his own and just, you know, do what he feels like.
well, we need to stay on this housing code. You're right.
Yeah.
And, as quickly as we move it, I think we need to, I mean, there's so many good things in there. That, we need to move it forward. Again, I have some concerns about it, but there's so much good about it that, you know, we need to,
And I think we need to.
it's gonna take a while for anything we do to have any kind of impact at all, so.
But we gotta do it.
Yeah, so
Take advantage of the resources we have, like Chet, who is really smart and really done a lot of work in this area, and really, the reason the thing in our tape fell through was only because the county pulled back the land. If they hadn't, something might have happened, but they pulled back the
What-
land and nothing has happened with that land now, that
what
survey.
ideas do you have on chat with the housing curve?
What?
We were talking about the housing curve. I didn't connect chat and the housing curve.
Chet has done a whole lot of work and has a nonprofit regarding housing. creating more housing and what needs to be
So
done.
maybe like the RV park.
Right.
Well, and Chet's not the only name in the game in terms of the RV park, is shifting gears from code to back to RV park, but, there was an organization that, Melissa Gertler reported me before she had left, that they came out and looked at the RV park, and they are somebody, it's an organization that's a nonprofit, just like Chet's organization, that does affordable housing and, workforce housing. They're working on a project down in Tillamook, and they looked at the RV park and said, oh, well, we have all sorts of ideas, and I don't know if and when they're gonna come.
Can you forward that, please?
Yeah, I'll send it to you then. But I don't know if and when they're going to come to council and ask us about stuff, but there is more than just a single organ. It's not just Chet's nonprofit that does housing in the area that's successful. There's other nonprofits that construct housing.
What income does the RV park bring to?
To us, it's a $300,000 direct transfer to the general fund. Plus it's another couple $100,000 that goes into the RV, reserve fund. So it kicks off roughly 500,000 a year.
Well, it's also more benefit, honestly, than just the straight dollars that go into our fund. There's
CLT.
Well, there is lodging tax that comes in from it, but there's also the fact that I've heard from galleries in the downtown area, that those are kind of their preferred customers, because the people that are coming in an RV are coming with a large vehicle that can haul away whatever they purchase at a gallery. They can haul away the statues and the big paintings, like haul away stuff, because they come with a big huge pickup truck with hauling a fifth wheel, or they're coming with an RV. So there's value for the rest of Canada Beach's economy for the RV park to exist. So I don't think eliminating.
I don't.
We haven't discussed eliminating, but just to put it out loud, I don't think eliminating the RV park is
That's
something
why I
that's worth
think,
really
I
discussing,
think we
but
should take action.
there is some portion I think is worth discussing.
Yeah.
Dedicating it to housing and that, but there is intrinsic value to the RV park
Right,
as a thing that's in town.
and it also is on the boards. Has been awards as being one of the best RV parks.
Yeah.
It really is, it is beautiful, there, it's absolutely beautiful.
Well, there are, I believe it's either 8 or 12 lots that are actually available, like there's nothing there that where they are building, they could be built. They've been identified. At the, in our,
I'm not really. See, we went on tour. A lot of our.
Yeah, all,
Yeah, all.
yes.
Some of our tours are even working.
Yeah.
So at some point,
Yeah, I didn't see any empty lots, but
what is it gonna take for us to have a conversation about the RV park and perhaps making some kind of like pulling back some of that for a project?
well, we need to get the organization that Eric was talking about in here and get Chet in here and have, at the same time, have a presentation of what's available, what it would take to do it, if it's a possibility.
How big of a parcel we would need for something
Right,
like
to make an impact, right?
Yeah.
Do we wanna involve, private private companies also, like I think of the Pacifica project over in Seaside that's happening. It broke ground and it's next to the former high school, yes,
The one that came to us and asked if we could get some money.
yeah, that one. And Related Northwest, I think is, that's happening, yeah.
Oh, good, good.
Do we, and one of the key people in that project is a Seaside High School graduate. Like virtually a student of mine, and she, she's walked around the RV park a little bit too. So that's,
I mean, the more voices we hear from, the better off we are, the more information we can get.
and are they involved in only affordable housing or is it rental housing?
that, I think they've developed, all kinds of housing.
Yeah, I think it could be a mix, but yeah, most of the money is for.
More affordable, or not in a good model, yeah.
Well, in general, going with our comprehensive plan, like affordable housing is called out specifically as not, don't go and build a giant apartment complex and call it all, make, like Oak Creek, not that Oak Creek's bad in any way, but it's a congregation of 32 dwelling units that are all of one. They're all
Mixed development.
mixed development is what's in the comprehensive plan of, so something in the RV park that would be more of a mix, there's some uppercase affordable, some lowercase affordable, like.
Remember when Marcia came and presented that, she called it a charrette, I just call it a meeting, but anyway, she had this. All these drawings of what the RV park area could look like. If it was, if a dream was realized, and it was pretty incredible, there was, there was a couple of large houses, there was a lot of middle housing, there was some affordable housing, there were lots of trees. It was just, it was idealized, cause.
It could be a
was
beautiful
very-
park, like.
It was really nice, there was even a coffee shop. It was really, it was the neighborhood, it was a neighborhood. Yeah,
Honestly, if any of the companies, any of the organizations, whether it be related, whether it be, North Coast Housing Solutions, that check.
Right.
Or this other organization that reached out, and any one of them is going to be able to say, hey, here's a beautiful thing, let's do this beautiful thing, and it just comes down to the five of us saying, yes, you get 10,000 square feet of the RV park, or you get whatever, like us saying, this is the space that you get. This is the money that we're willing to dedicate to doing that, so it just comes down to us moving that ball forward of, they're all, these organizations are out there that have the expertise to do this. We just keep
yeah. Oh,
going, and instead of just making essentially making a decision saying, yes, let's dedicate to how much ever square footage, how much ever percentage, whatever it is.
Do you have any space in our meetings for the next year now?
You might not have a meeting. So it looks like there's gonna be some language on this coordinator with people coming in. When, do you guys see this as something we have for a work session or is it an independent thing?
I think it should be an independent.
Yeah, it's a-
Alright, so we have just out there, so you guys know, in February, we have a poll out there, I think I can two counselors to respond to with regards to the joint code audits. March, we have the housing meeting set up. Which is our chance to hear from the public and also Marcy giving an overview like Eric had mentioned earlier. Is this something you wanna try for April or do you want to add an addition? Well, it's the March one, I think that was the only date that I was available, so I don't think we can add an additional one.
And I think we need to have this meeting we're talking about right now after we have the March meeting.
Perfect, so April,
Okay,
alright, so you guys get another poll.
Oh, boy.
So-
it's important. though.
No, I didn't, yeah.
Okay, so we will do an April meeting, I'll send out a poll and then I will get with Barb to go over the notes that I took about who we need to coordinate with inviting. And,
Yeah, get yours.
And
Well,
I just forward
okay,
that email that I have.
alright, so.
What's the name of the company or the nonprofit? Well, you understand.
I can look at it.
Because they specifically have looked at the RV.
Yeah, it's.
And then checks right on top of it as well.
Yeah.
That's the one I know how to get over,
Yeah.
this cat.
So Tillamook Bay Commons was the name of their project. That they. It doesn't look like we're running like that, I can't. Yeah, no, it's not like, I don't know, I forwarded the email to Jen and then forwarded to put it in the record and get it sent away.
And is East Local something that we want to see if we can?
I think we need to.
I still think it's a valuable.
Yeah.
Piece of the pie.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I just think anything we can do to get any housing is a plus. So,
So if we put some money
yeah,
into it, then, but then it's figuring out how to manage that system, so that,
that's,
you know, what works for that company,
the
then.
company is very willing to do that. They love to have Gossip County.
But it's
How much of a commitment does it need to take from us, you know, for them to do a program, and how much of the money are they getting, and how much of it, you know, is going to?
Yeah.
Maybe some housing.
I think they, in general, they were looking at, like a 5-year funding commitment.
Right.
For an expected level of, whatever expected level that they predict usage to be. A 5-year funding commitment from whoever is putting it on, so that's what.
That sounds fine.
Go to the county, or whether it's us independently as Cannon Beach. Just saying, we're not gonna wait for
Yeah.
the region, let's just do it, or
No,
or
my,
trying to
yeah,
fix it.
my feeling is that every city in the county that wants to.
Oh, I think everyone wants to be
Yeah.
involved, it's just who's rainbow and cats at the county level or the region level to keep us all.
Yeah.
And it was Alyssa before.
Right.
Now, if they don't retire that position, I'm like, who?
Well, at the last meeting, they knew that Jeff was coming back, and he's the one that started the regional task force in our house, and of course, they think Jeff Adams is gonna.
So Jeff could be our cat wrangler for that then?
Well, I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet, but that's what the group is hoping, is that they'll spearhead it.
Really?
Yeah, yep, but again, I thought I'd bring him in easy. Was gonna wait till next week to talk to him about it.
He's gonna be here tomorrow.
I know, but I don't want to put him on the spot. I
Yeah, we want to management task force.
Yeah. Well, and he would have help, and impressed, and very much involved in the organization too, so, he wouldn't have to do it for himself. Okay, what else on housing?
I don't know, are there any options with Southwind now that we've got some utility work out there?
I would love to see some more exploration of that, especially since they're driving in that big sewer line across the road, and there's. I would love to see some exploration of, because that would seem to be the biggest holdback, is that there's no utilities there, and now that we've invested.
Well, no
in-
utilities and the stability of.
But there's some stability, but I feel like stability is gonna be an issue no matter
Exactly.
where.
It's always.
In anything that the bill, there's gonna be stability issues that they're being part of,
Right.
there's a lot of bill there.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be stability issues, but the utilities, not that it's solved, but there is more options of
Exactly.
utilities.
Yeah.
Now that we've-
Southwind is always.
It actually does check one of the hurdles off the list.
Yeah.
So I would be curious of an opinion on what could be done there.
You know, are there steep slopes there that would be an impediment?
There's some steep slopes, there are some flatter areas up higher, but there's also more stability up higher, so there's. Give and take, I don't remember the full, obviously I don't remember the full geotech report that was presented 4 years ago. The large part,
Yeah.
the report of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some existing slides and old slides and some steep areas, but having been up there, there's also areas that are
Right.
flat-ish.
Yeah.
That are less crazy slopes.
And I think we have some differing, geologic reports too, so it'd be nice to have some updated study.
Well, and since somebody that's familiar with housing, reviewing that area, if that is even a viable, like Gary was suggesting, just investigating if that's. Now, the one box is either checked or quasi checked, utilities to that side of the highway.
Right, to me, the biggest box is the geological issues, I mean, you know, that.
Right.
So what's the action we can take on that?
Well, I think we're expressing an interest in pursuing, the feasibility of putting housing up there.
And that's some kind of assessment.
Now,
So would it be
Now that
And
we
some
have
kind of,
Right. Who would do that, so an engineering firm, you know,
Would be an engineering firm, somebody you hired probably by the city.
it'd be interesting to do that, I mean, to have an engineering firm look at it and talk about it, let us know what kind of, prospects there are out there, if any.
What engineering firms work on this?
I didn't hear
The engineering firm that's been working on the property up there.
Windsor?
Windsor.
Very nice.
Red one.
Red Group?
Red Plains.
Red Plains is working on our.
So wouldn't they be the most likely company to contact, because they've been up there and they already have, they've been working out there.
And they've been great to work with, right?
Yeah.
We depend on the scope. The scope reaches a certain point, then you have to go up our fees.
Oh, right. What threshold on that?
I don't know.
You know, it's there.
I know there's a threshold.
So we need to find out what the threshold on that RFP is and how much it would cost them to go in and look. Yeah, look. As long as it doesn't go over that threshold.
I think the threshold's gonna be more than just monetary, I think it's gonna be scope as well. If we're exceeding too far outside of the scope of
Right. It's a
what they've
whole,
already been hired.
whole other job.
Well, yeah, it would be different. Yeah, it wouldn't be under the same umbrella.
Right.
It just has to be under a certain dollar amount, right, or a scope.
But I think that if we're gonna be serious about looking at for housing, that it's gonna be a big scope. Now, we have a lot of work done already up there. We have a monitor, we're kind of a monitor well or monitoring system that is checking for movement. So that's a big step. And that's that's available to wherever we hire.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So is it something we could put in next year's budget? Sure.
Roll is your oyster.
Okay, so we're gonna spend down that reserve. Okay.
So it looks like our direct award is up to 1,000 for construction related engineer, or architect engineer, contract for construction related national services. So a small procurement is considered less than $100,000. And those could be direct award if chosen, we can still get qualified, you know, not for qualified, but that's our threshold. Having to quote
100,000.
for this type of stuff, because of the construction related, something that can end up in construction in the future. But we also know here that for budget and something that we work on at the next fiscal year. Is that correct?
Okay, so, yes,
Okay.
I think so. Yeah. I don't think we have any room to do anything before that. It's gonna come fast. If we don't.
Will be 4th of July soon.
Is there anything?
You're just saying that because we're looking at the letter outside.
I've gone back in time.
Is there anything we can do on the land trust? Discussion? To encourage that. I mean, what does it take to move something like that?
And you know something, I think that, I mean, I know that Chet has something that he had going on and that got pulled back, but. And maybe we even do both, but I think we have Randy come in and actually talk to us and present what he has. I think that everybody might be really. Interested in hearing what he has to say about research. And what that looks like. Without him trying to throw it into a 3-minute public comment that turns into 10.
Or a 3-hour.
I was gonna say, there's
PowerPoint presentation.
there's limits on both sides.
Oh, yeah, and we'll be talking about that soon, and I agree with that,
Yeah.
right? I absolutely agree with that, but just to give, you know,
To have him present his research. Yeah, well, I think that would be a good idea. He's willing to do that.
I think I don't know what group of individuals would form the initial board for that thing, but I think just knowing whoever it is, if it's Randy that helps start that initial board, if it's somebody else, other people in the community, if it's one of us, whatever it is, knowing that the support that there's potentially, if there is support from council that is willing to provide funding through grant process or whatever helps create formation of this separate nonprofit. And so, yeah, I think having Randy come in and present what he knows about it so far and where, how it works. He's calling doctor people all across the region.
Yeah, and he's gotten a lot of community buy-in as well. And he's gotten some really good feedback.
So we're through April in terms of.
Fourth of July.
So if you guys want to do this like as a work session item and say, hey, we'd like you to do a 10-minute presentation, or do you want something bigger?
Yeah, no, let's just start with that.
If you want to see that, we can actually put it as a February work session,
Okay,
or we could,
Are you willing to?
oh, well, how about I offer him February work session or March, based off of the schedule?
That sounds
Does
great.
that work okay? It's ready, all right.
Ready?
and it's just to give us, what is the scope and what is.
15 minutes.
15,
Okay,
okay.
15
So
minutes.
good, it's just tell us what our research has uncovered about.
A presentation and then we can question and stuff.
Well, the land guys.
Is he part of it? Richard?
Richard heard a lot.
Well, Randy can involve
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
in studio, but 15 minutes and then allow some time for questions.
Okay,
Okay? Anything else on housing?
I still think we need
I
to
can't
look
think of anything else.
at that parking. I think we need to look at the parking for this outlook base, temporary.
Our test project, yeah, I do too.
I think that, I really think that that's something we need to do sooner than later.
But isn't that in the housing code?
It is, so.
So it's part of that.
We will be addressing it in March. Yeah,
thank you for that, March.
Yep.
For all that you guys are gonna have your joint rewrite code meeting in February, and that would be one of the,
oh, okay.
you can bring it up then as well, because that's. Well, it's part of the housing, but well, your housing changes have already been presented though, so I guess you guys can modify. Like, you know.
Yeah.
you
It's
can
a
all-
huge part of that.
Yeah.
I think you only have one person left waiting for for February.
Two. Oh, well, somebody just added one. Good job.
During the meeting, wow.
Multi-
If I'll forget it.
That was the fifth one, I forget that one. Okay, anything else on housing? I think that was a good discussion and, it definitely has to be one of our major goals.
Moving on several fronts.
Yes, yes. Okay, so. That's. Next we are going to have discussion on. What we view as values for the city.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put this in here, and the little group of things underneath it, responding to staff emails, council duty, expectations, conduct, that wasn't what I meant by values.
Those are two separate things.
Oh,
So
okay.
when we went through it, they said those are all things we could talk about when we do the city value discussion.
Oh,
So you'll start with city values and then we'll do those.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And the city, this was first actually brought to my attention by, Lila Wicca, who's real active in the, medical emergency, research. And it really is an interesting idea because everything we do really is informed by our values for the city. Or what do we value? What do we value? The quaint atmosphere of the city? Do we value the environment and natural beauty? Do we, what is it that do we value the fact that the city brings in a ton of money? Is that one of our main values, is that it's a huge tourist attraction? What are we really, what are the values that we have for this city that inform all of our other decisions. Because they do. So I'd like to start with one of the values I think is incredibly important. And it is the natural beauty of the place, the physical environment. I think that this place, not one business in this town would be doing as well as it is if it didn't rely on people coming here for the natural beauty. They don't come here for the businesses, they come here for the natural beauty, and the businesses are here and they take advantage of them and enjoy them. So I think that is, you know, in my opinion, should be one of the things that we place a high value on, is our physical environment.
And the protection of that.
Right, because without the protection of that, I don't think, people are not flocking here to go to Terhar's clothing store. They go to it because they're here for something else.
Let's try to keep it.
Okay, I just was picking a business that was.
Having this discussion as, to look at how we want to, rewrite our vision statement that's in our comprehensive plan.
Or how we want
Is
to
it,
rewrite the code, because we're gonna be working on our code, and that should be informed by our values.
well, and we have all kinds of value statements in the comprehensive plan,
We do,
so.
but we sort of ignore them. Well, to some extent, we really.
Yeah, I wouldn't say ignore them, but we have to
Sometimes we
balance
we
things
forget
against, being a business community, being, a community that values housing and diversity, and so I guess I want to know what this looks like and what we're actually doing. We're gonna write separate values to our comprehensive plan, or are we looking at amending the comprehensive plan?
No, I think what we're looking, really, given what the comprehensive plan is, I would think that we're maybe reminding ourselves of what the values that are put forth in the comprehensive plan actually are. Because I feel like,
Proximity to-
can I finish my sentence, please? Because I feel like sometimes, I think we get away from those a lot, and I think we stray away from them when we shouldn't. And, I think we need to make sure we keep those in mind with whatever decisions we make. And I don't think that housing and protecting your environment are mutually exclusive at all. I don't. I think if you think inside a box, they are. But if you're going to think outside the box, they're not. So,
Would it be okay if I read what is here?
Sure.
List of things. Proximity to and interaction with the surrounding natural environment was defined by the ocean and its beach, the Acola Creek estuary and surrounding forested hillsides. A city that is physically small in size and has well-defined edges as the result of its location adjacent to the ocean and forest land. A concern for planning and design controls which create a visually attractive community for residents and visitors. A community spiritedness which results in a high level of community participation and the development of innovative solutions to problems. Presence of the arts. Community diversity, where a variety of lifestyles, where residents have a variety of lifestyles and there is an acceptance thereof. A small town atmosphere that is characterized by a relaxed pace of life, friendly informed setting, and a high sense of security. I mean, this goes on, there's social values and things specifically related to the town's physical form. But I guess I just want to know what kind of exercise we're.
I guess I just wanted to. And I think what Lila was asking for, she sort of felt like. Maybe that the values that she had seen demonstrated at meetings she's listened to are straying away from those values that are in the conference.
Yeah, maybe we should read the whole thing and remind ourselves. And see if there's anything that we would like to change.
So this being a topic for the agenda made me think, okay, well, I'm gonna write down a list of values that I think. Things that I ran on, elected, things that I just think in general that are about the community, and they're very, like, without going back and referencing specifically to the comprehensive plan and looking at it and looking at what I look at here and what is in the vision statement are very similar, and I think it's just making a point of when we make decisions about whatever we're making decisions about, making decisions about Gary Park, making decisions about how we fund the low contract, making decisions about how we develop the NECU, so whatever decisions that we consistently keep in mind that these particular things, maybe having this include, I don't know if we need to have this included in our findings of fact of anything, any decisions that we want to talk about, the way we make the decisions, but like reference, like this decision is supported by the comprehensive plan. In the value, mixed land provides livability, or whatever it is, so that we have a consistent reminder that, like, 'cause my values that I wrote down here, like I said, very much reflect what's in here, so it's like, all right, well, I may not be actually saying that this decision, because our comprehensive plan says this, and I think that our community wants it like this, but I think we're in general kind of thinking it, or maybe we're all thinking it from different angles.
There's always cherry picking and things.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, but just a reminder, just this being on our agenda for today to discuss.
And,
Give that full thought process.
and I think the comprehensive plan is beautiful and doesn't have to be any revision. I think what we need to do is, you know, like Eric said, is be aware when we're making decisions that we need to be upholding that beautiful document.
The holistic approach.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I just feel like, you know, some members of the community feel like we're forgetting. We're sort of like not, we're,
Well, and perhaps we are, or perhaps we're not, and it feels like we're just kind of bullying our way through things. When we're really not.
I think
We have a valid.
maybe more
reason to make
reference.
this decision.
I think Eric's idea of we should all reread it. And I have a copy I made that I keep at home, and, you know, you just keep it there and think about it and make sure that when you're making decisions, you're reflecting the values of the comprehensive plan.
And maybe sometimes that'll help us be a little softer around the edges. When we're trying to get our
And-
plan across.
Exactly, and we can refer to it, we can say, based on the values in our comprehensive plan, I'm making this decision, or, you know, because we have to have sometimes we need some justification, you know, for what we're doing, and oftentimes it gets very murky. So I think we really need to pull that forward as much as we can.
The only thing that I am trying to see if there is specific version, which is, or in the vision statement. The only thing that I wrote down that isn't heard almost verbatim in the vision statement is, transparency of government. Is a thing that I wrote down, and like, I'm not advocating any modifications to this, that's just a value that I had been thinking of, and I think we probably.
Participation, I know that was what Gary just read again about, you know, the participation of the community, so.
Well, and that's mentioned a dozen times in your participation.
You can't have participation without transparency, 'cause what are you participating in?
Well, and it's, what I was gonna say is, one of our later topics for today, the meeting organization and stuff like that, I think. That honing in and solidifying more efficient meetings, leads to transparency, and that's something, a value that I hold, transparency, making sure people can easily get the information that they want out of stuff, but that's the only thing that I wrote down that's separate from what currently exists in our vision statement. Nice record scratch there.
I'm glad to see, I'm happy to hear that everybody is on board with their comprehensive plan.
It's good to talk about it though.
It is good to talk about, I think, you know, you have to keep coming back to it, it's really easy to stray away.
It's, you know, it's tough because there's. It's not totally objective, we can all make of it what we wanna make of it. And I read, Cannon Beach will continue to plan for a balance between the residential and resort elements of the community. In achieving this balance, the emphasis will be placed on managing the resort aspects of Cannon Beach in a manner that is not disruptive to the residential character of the community. You know, I think there's some people who think that anything that goes on commercially is disruptive to the residential character of the community, so there's kind of a lot of subjectiveness that comes with this.
There isn't any more,
Yeah, I know.
there's no way to avoid that.
And balancing is really hard.
And balance, I think, is the word I mentioned earlier, is that we do have to balance a lot of different things.
But one of the
Right.
great things about Cannon Beach is that we have a diverse group of opinions. I think, yeah, sometimes you think, why, we need to have all that, but, you know, that makes it, why it's an interesting place to live.
That's for sure.
I guess
I've learned a lot of things, learned a lot of things from people if you keep your mind open.
Yeah.
For them having a different view.
I know, but you're right, Gary, I mean, I tend to look at the parts of the comprehensive, like the sentence you just read. I would put that towards the bottom and put, you know, protection of the environment at the top, because that's what I read. You know, so those are your values, those are my values, but it's important for me, to be honest, to look at all the values that are in that comprehensive plan and not just put the ones I like out front. And I do that sometimes, I know it.
I mean, I certainly aspire to, you know, an environment more where we could, disagree without the, divisiveness.
And making it personal.
Yeah. But I don't know what. I don't know what to do about that
Yeah, I can
necessarily.
imagine.
I mean, obviously, you know, we make decisions here that, are always going to upset somebody. And the, sometimes, the divisive voices, just are,
They're the loudest.
yeah, then they're, not necessarily contributing to community and, if I can, where you actually lose some of what we would, what I would aspire us to be.
Well, yeah, and especially in these particular times where we have, where, you know, and that divisiveness extends all the way up to
It does.
federal governments, that's how they operate. At least, and it's sort of trickling down. It seemed to me that a few years ago, some of the things that are happening now would have been kind of invisible a few years ago, but now they're sort of accepted because, you know, the sort of personal attacks, because we're seeing it every day in news, personal attacks against people, and it's sort of, you know, it's a.
I just see an aggressive effort to turn people against the city, against each of us individually, and, I don't know, it's discouraging.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know.
I think, you know, people who are willing to do this, you know, have that kind of discouragement is not a It's not a good formula for the future.
But we each individually can try to change that. Which is what I try to do, but it's tough, it is. It's tough.
Well, it's tough, but sometimes it's harder to agree to disagree than it is to win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to fight for the win, so. I'm working on that.
Yeah, the easiest
We
thing
all
in the
are, we
world
all
is
have to.
complaining is so easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. What, you know, complaining without any solutions or alternatives, and just complaining for the sake of complaining. It's completely, it doesn't accomplish anything.
But I have so many people that say, no. You guys are the ones who are supposed to come up with solutions, and I always say, no, it's gotta be a collection. We all have to. It's, like you said, it's very easy to complain, but let's work towards a solution. Yeah. So it makes it tough.
And you can't make, I got a note from someone, and I know we need to move on, but I got a note from someone. After we made a decision about, short-term rental thing, and, you know, I reached back out to them and told them that, you know, unfortunately, sometimes in this position, you have to make difficult decisions, and I got a really nice response.
Yeah, I think that
Which I was surprised for, but I did, I got a lovely response, so,
no, anytime I've gotten a letter from anybody, I always respond, period. This is, or a phone call, I always respond. I just think, I think it's important, yeah.
yeah.
And I hear a fair amount of appreciative feedback
Yeah.
as well, but,
Oh, this wasn't appreciated.
well, no. An acknowledgement.
But the response was.
This, I guess, what's frustrating is some of the exaggeration of things that just seem to me like to be intentionally divisive.
Yeah, and you're always gonna have people who feed off that in the community. There's no way to avoid it. It's, you know, you're always gonna have those people in a community who just wanna, you know, create turmoil. And you can't, nothing you can do about that. Those are individual people who have their own agendas, and you just have to learn to look at the source.
Yeah, I guess. Just be, or the love for this community, or rejecting some of that behavior rather than buying into it. Anyway, where are we?
I think
Responding to staff emails. I think we're done. I think we're.
I'm ready to move along.
everybody ready? Okay, I didn't want to say we're done with values, because that's not.
No more values.
Okay, responding to staff emails. I think, as I've said before, there's no limit to better. We all need to be better at responding to staff emails. Jen is a very, very patient person to work with, and I wouldn't want to be her. So, could we all make a commitment to try to do a better job at responding to staff emails?
Is, you're referencing responding as in not, putting our availability?
Well, that would be one example, yeah, yeah.
I thought this was specifically Gary not responding to staff emails.
See, everybody has their own set of, because I have my set of issues too. Or, now
I think we're all guilty. Let's just do a better job.
let's do a better job.
Yeah.
Do our best.
Do our best.
Yeah,
Stop
And
me.
thank you for the text reminders sometimes. when-
Yeah.
yeah.
If Gary forgets to respond to staff emails, or they fall down a little farther.
Or Deanna can't remember what dates at all we talked about.
In all fairness, there has been a lot lately, so I think we're gonna be very easy.
Well, then they're all,
Someone could just look to say,
Right, and, yeah, sending the little individual text messages too. Oh,
yes,
it's like, are you still alive?
hello.
Okay, council duty expectations? I can't remember. Anybody remember who put that down there?
Duty expectations, right?
Yeah, that wasn't me, I love it.
So if I were to ask one of you, what do you think are our expectations for our duties? Besides answering staff emails and, what else is there in life of a city councilor?
I would, as a city councilor in general, I would say just the basic, be courteous and kind to our constituents, all of them.
Being prepared for meetings.
That's what I would say. I would say, reading the information all the way through the packet, no matter how boring it is. For example, there was tons of information, on the whole riprap thing, that planning commission packet was hideous. But you either watch the meeting on Zoom, which you can do a lot of chores while you have a meeting going on Zoom.
Yeah.
You can be cooking dinner or, knitting.
Vacuuming stuff.
Yeah, yeah, but you can get that meeting under your belt. If you don't wanna read through hundreds of reports, at least to have some idea of what went on at the planning commission level. Before you, make up your mind. And I don't feel like, I have felt, to be honest, that sometimes on certain issues that council's come in and hasn't done that homework. I really feel that way. And I don't know.
I kind of feel the same way, and I don't wanna call out anybody in particular, but, we've had, on recent agendas, I requested some additional information before, included in the packet, and I felt like there were questions from council that didn't. They kind of made it apparent to me that that information had not been read beforehand, and there were questions of the presenter, and it caused us to go significantly longer in our request for information out of the presenter than would have been necessary if all five of us had come fully prepared, had read the whole packet, and just had a couple highlight questions, clarifications or whatever, instead of some questions that were fairly basic level questions being asked of that agenda item, that the information was already in the packet. The questions being asked of information that could have very easily been just control F and found it in the packet. So yeah, being prepared for meetings and reading all the material, which sometimes sucks. But that's, we get it a week ahead of time, and sometimes 1,000 pages is definitely a lot to get done in a week, but it's that, and then informing opinions and asking follow-up questions of people like Tim and other staff members. So that maybe the information is in there and we missed it, but Tim has been great about getting back to when I have questions about finance stuff, like, especially if I, earlier, right when we get the package, to clarifications of what does this number mean, what does that mean, getting those questions done out of the way. And so sometimes they need to be re-asked during the meeting, because it's something the whole public is gonna be interested in hearing, sometimes it's literally just a clarification, but I think that would speed up meetings in general. And then, I think that's one of our duties, is being fully prepared and researched before that meeting.
But keeping in mind that sometimes we forget.
Oh, well, sometimes the meeting, sometimes the discussion needs to be had, even if it is freshly, because it's something that's pertinent that the community is gonna wanna know, and it may not be apparent on the surface.
Yeah.
It's included in that.
Because I don't think it's the duty of every citizen to read the 1,000 pages, the packets.
Yeah, sometimes I will intentionally ask. That are intended to get a staff response that I think the wider public needs to know.
Yeah.
But when you're reviewing an appeal from the planning commission's decisions, I think that's what I think it's really important, that because there's findings and conclusions that are issued by the planning commission. And I think that it's our duty to understand what the basis for those findings and conclusions are. And if we're going to overturn the planning commission, we have a rational, reasoned approach to doing it. And I really felt like that hasn't always happened.
Sometimes we're just not always going to agree, and that doesn't mean that you didn't come prepared.
Exactly.
Right.
You don't have to agree necessarily, but give a reason why. In other words, you don't just say, I know, I'm voting this way, or I overturn the planning commission. Look at the findings and conclusions and point out where you differ from them and why. You substantiate your thinking, otherwise you're not making an informed decision or letting other people know why you're different. I just think that's really important. Because it's an appeal.
Anything else? No, okay. So again, something we can all get better at. And you will. Okay, and then, conduct, just a reminder that, we all need to be as kind and respectful as we can, even when we are disagreeing. Just, that's all.
Yeah,
Try to do a good job of that.
and I think acknowledging constituent concerns is I know something that is always something.
Yeah.
And not that I do it well every time.
Oh, I think you do a good job.
Thank you.
But again, there's no prevent the better.
Exactly. Better, trying to remember.
Yeah.
that,
Okay, so we're ready to go on, that whole structure and time limit our meetings.
I think on conduct, before we go on to that, I think we need to.
No, you can't do
Can't back up. We set. Did we pass the code of conduct for the counselors? And that going back to values, I think that we all need to look at that. And Barb, you said in a meeting, here not very long ago, you're always a city council, you're always a counselor, you're always the mayor. No matter where you are, no matter who you're talking to, and sometimes we all fall down, right? That's, it happens.
We're human.
But, making sure that we're treating everyone with the respect that we would appreciate being treated with. I think that's really important to look forward.
And whether we could, acknowledge it,
Yeah,
especially to the individual, it's true.
yeah,
But we will do that.
we will. We all fall down occasionally.
Okay, ready for,
Yes, let's have it.
okay,
But no, I just had a question about that though. For example, if I were to go to a rally in Astoria about something I felt very strongly about, and I wanted to carry a big sign that was maybe nasty, about the current administration. Oh, I mean, at some point,
no, there, you still have rights,
Yeah.
but you always are a private citizen,
Okay,
so you
yeah,
have the right.
make sure.
Yeah, we just wouldn't want you
I've
kind
got
of
it.
grading into a city council.
Yeah, I don't wear my T-shirts into this city council meeting. With the sayings on.
Sure.
I think those for other times.
Yeah, we might all get a good laugh out. But, but, oh, yeah, no, I've been seen down park on Saturday. occasionally.
Yeah.
And they.
No, we still, we haven't given away our private citizen rights by being.
Well, in our, as counselors, our opinions are the reasons why, or our ability to listen to these things, people around us is the reason why we're sitting here. Because
That's
we
true.
convince people that we could represent them, or convince people that, that our opinions represent enough people's opinions in the community for them to say, yes, I want you to represent me up here on council. So our personal opinions, if we are attending a rally, it's, okay, well, Eric Ostrander is attending a rally here, Lisa Bird, whatever it is, we're doing what we're doing, and hopefully our constituents who voted for us, that's not out of character for them to see us doing something like that. They would recognize, oh yes, that's something that I agree with, that's something that I voted for, this is the sort of representation that I voted for, somebody would stand up for what they believe in this particular manner, whatever it is that we're saying, so I don't think that has any, that does have bearing on conduct, that's, I would expect that we would participate in things that match our values, which is why people voted for us to be sitting here in the first place, because of what we value and the way we portrayed ourselves during the time frame we voted for.
So there are some things that have happened in this country that I never ever thought of. So.
Yes.
But
That really, yeah.
never ever think that they would take away SNAP,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, come on. So time to change too. Okay, now can we go on? Okay, so we're gonna talk about structure and time limits on meetings. Who would like to start that this week?
Not me,
Okay. Go ahead, Karen.
I think. Sometimes we do have, very intense meetings. It seems to me like most of the problems come with presentations. I would like to see presentation times limited. I would like to see presentations included in the packet so that we can review them, and if they want to make a few comments that. And I realize that sometimes it's for the public,
Okay, that's where I have the issue.
but, you know, maybe you can read an abbreviated version for the public. I don't know, it just seems like that's where we really go wrong sometimes, or go late sometimes, is we're sitting here through. And I know it's like, okay, I've read all this, and, you know, we're reading it line by line, and that's what it seems to me, that sometimes we just have intense meetings that need a lot of discussion. But so a lot of the presentations.
Yeah. The thing about the packet, I mean, if a presentation is included in the packet, that packet's available to the public. So if somebody doesn't want to read through it themselves and expects to hear it reread at the meeting, I don't think that's fair. I think people have to take personal responsibility. And if you're interested in a topic and it's on the agenda, read the freaking packet.
Or maybe
if
we
you
need to
hear-
do a better job of saying, you know, the full presentation is in the packet. And getting people to it, but.
Well, and that's just it, a summary, even a summary of the table, and if somebody's really interested, then they
Yeah.
go back to the packet.
I think a good, relatively good example of that, the request, which I completely agree with, is, the HVAC presentation that we just got. There was a longer presentation, it was in the packet, and Lisa pretty much 30 seconds a slide, or a minute slide, or whatever it was, just do hit it, and then we were able to go back and ask questions as we went, and it was the presentation itself, I don't remember how long it took, it was,
15 minutes.
yeah, it was a very time respectful
Or is it
presentation.
dedicated on every single piece of information, it would have been at least 40.
Oh, at least, yeah, and I think that as a target, maybe, I don't know if we need to set a number of minutes, but that as a target of. Include a big giant presentation, don't worry about limiting the presentation that's in the packet, make that as long as you want, so that we can. All that information is there, don't summarize anything there. But when you coming to the meeting, provide a real quick summary, let's hit the highlights. Which is what she did. Exactly, and we have had many other presentations.
And kudos to her, her first presentation, I thought
Yeah.
she did a great job.
They came into the shop to the, during one other gal came into the shop the next day.
Uh-huh.
And I thanked them again.
Yeah.
For just, it was such a nice, well, I think I clapped. I'm the only one when they got done, but I think we set a good time requiring presenters to give their packet in advance. And to set a time limit on their presentation.
Well, I don't wanna sit it.
I don't, you know, I don't think about time limit is it depends on.
Yeah.
The subject and the depth that needs to be. presented.
But they don't all have to have the same timeline.
Okay,
Or ask them, how long do you think this presentation
to do a summary of their presentation.
is going to take? Yeah, and then you allow 10 minutes or whatever on the backside for questions if needed, and if not, then we can move on to the next thing.
So that is that's the key, I think, is say, we do not want to hear you read what you provided in the packet. We want a summary of what you provided.
Because we already sat and groaned through the
Well, and-
all 1,000 pages.
And there's differences in meetings as well, so we have our city council meeting, our work session, and then we have our specific. This meeting March 5th, that we're setting a specific, I imagine we're gonna want to hear the whole presentation, hear a lot of information. But that's a meeting, a separate standalone meeting for a specific topic, as opposed to a quarterly report from an organization, like from a department, or whatever, from chamber, like whatever it is, that some of those meetings, some of those presentations get so long. And it's just reading the packet, and I think for regularly occurring, or these, those sorts that are in just a regular meeting, it's not a standalone meeting, definitely needs to be a summary of the information that was provided in the packet. And then that way, if there's questions that we have, or if constituents could ask those questions, like, why don't they have, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We can then ask those questions at the meeting, and maybe we do a little bit of a deep dive on small aspects of it, as opposed to doing that deep dive of the entirety of the presentation.
So that's gonna take some time to educate presenters. And unfortunately, that's gonna probably fall on Jen.
I'm more than happy to educate people.
I will add that there's no limit to better, and I'm sure I could do better at, staying on topic and on task and not going down rabbit holes.
But sometimes we all do. But it happens.
Also, you kind of learn sometimes from rabbit holes. Too, so,
Yeah.
I just think we need to be aware that the questions that we ask need to have a reason for asking them.
You know, the part of this whole thing that really bothers me, it seems to bother a lot of people in the community, is when we get up at, and I don't know how to solve it. Get up at public comment, make a comment, we sit there stony faced because we're supposed to, you're not supposed to go, yeah, when they're talking, and then there seems to be no response, and then people think you're not listening to them, because and I guess I thought coffee with the counselors would solve that to some extent, because coffee with the counselors is a chance for there to be that interplay with people on issues, but I don't know if it's enough. I don't know how
I
you,
think the direction that we have tried to go with public comment, but by the time we get to the end of the meeting,
everyone's gone.
they're gone. Yeah, is for us as counselors to bring up something in good of the order that was presented during public comment. Because if we responded to every public comment during the time of public comment, we would have a really long meeting. And so for us to bring something up in good of the order that was presented during public comment, perhaps put it on the future agenda. We're not always gonna have the answers immediately. But try to do that a little more consistently.
and why don't we let people know we're going to do that, because I don't.
So I could say something at the beginning of
They've been going.
I'm afraid that if we tell people we're gonna put something on an agenda and then it doesn't happen for a month, then we're gonna get blowback.
Not necessarily put on an agenda, maybe that will respond to the public comment.
in good of the
in
order.
good of the order, that's where we respond.
And then if they leave, which I was always raised to stay for an entire meeting.
They all leave.
My father made that, if you're so interested in something, you stay till the very end. And I think of him often.
They've changed that.
Oh, I know,
Right,
But
but I,
not like Sue either, but if we maybe just at the beginning of public comment, say that, if need be, we will address how we're going to handle public comments in good of the order. And then people know they can fast forward through everything else. Get
what
to
if
good
we
of
did
the
it
order.
at the end of public comment?
If you
And
mean,
thank, when everybody got done with their public comment.
oh, make that
If you're
statement.
good about telling them thank you.
I had a similar thought.
Oh, but if you said at the end of the order, at the end of public comment, that if we got something we needed to thank.
Yeah, okay.
It's not necessarily conducive to structure or time limits on meetings, but that, to me,
Well, we're just
we'd
making a
have to be
statement.
disciplined at it and
Yeah.
not just feel like we need to respond.
Doing
but
it good
at
of the
least-
order, it's just putting it off, one, making people stay till the end.
But whatever the best, right, but whatever the best comment would be. So it doesn't, we're not I mean, Barb isn't promising that we're gonna hit every highlight. Cause
But it might be an opportunity to acknowledge people's concerns.
I think just
So-
that acknowledgement of knowing that. We heard what they.
That's one of the most consistent complaints we've gotten.
Mhm.
Yep, it really is.
But it's not something new.
No, I know.
This council,
But I think, no, yeah, it's been with every council.
Yeah.
But I think it's the problem with, and it really makes, I think it makes people feel like their participation is meaningless. So I think somehow, maybe Deanna and Gary's idea of doing it right after public comment, but retry. Well,
As an
Yeah.
additional item.
It's-
Council response.
it just,
Hold on, I'm confused. You mean making a statement that will address anything in good of order,
No,
or
no.
addressing it right then?
addressing it right after the.
No.
After everybody's done.
Right.
Right, just making a nice statement that says, tells them thank you. And if we feel like there's anything that needs to be addressed, we'll do that.
And one of us, if they feel strongly about something, said, well, I think that's gonna be addressed at future meeting, or that's something that I think we may want to address in the future, or just at least letting people know that we heard them.
But we'd have to be really disciplined to
Yeah,
not
we
have
would,
it
we could
be
get into.
rebuttal or.
No,
Well, if
we can't
they're
get
already
into
done with
discussion.
their comment, right? If they're already done with their comments, then Barb can tell them that they can't say anything else.
Well, so
You know, I'm just talking about rebuttal from us.
it sounds like there's two ideas happening concurrently right now. So one is Deanna mentioning that the response actually takes place in good of the order, and Barb reminds everyone that at the end of public comments, and then the other, maybe I'm.
No,
yeah.
yeah,
And then Gary was suggesting, that instead of us responding in good of the order, us having an additional agenda item after public comment before the thing of essentially like a pre-good of the order of for us to say, okay, there was 6 comments about housing. Hey, we are having a housing meeting at this, and making those responses at the top rather than waiting.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
Okay,
I think that if we were disciplined, we could acknowledge people after public comment. And if really we had anything we wanted to say, but anything that would be more, should be dealt with at
Good of the order.
at the order. And I mean, it might be good just for Barb to acknowledge people's comments, ask if any of us had anything to add, but and we'd have to be disciplined, and then say, and we will address some of us are good of the order.
So we do public comment. At the end, I would say that, and then each counselor would have. a chance.
Would have an opportunity, but
No,
it
you
would
would say,
only be really if,
I think it's being made entirely too difficult. I think that
That's
taking,
right, keep asking
Yeah,
questions.
I think that adding any kind of commentary from counselors after public comment is suicide by proxy.
It would be if I was.
Can I share something that the school board puts on their agendas? So I read this the other day and I kind of liked it, and it just said, meeting without the other to receive public comment. We value the time and initiative members of the public take to share their thoughts with the board. The board's role during public comment is to not immediately respond, but to listen. If follow-up is necessary, we will direct our superintendent to do so. Remember that rather than listen to some other stuff. But we can add some little bit more information in there, so that way people, when they read that, understand that their role is not to respond, but to listen. And then you can still discuss it during the order, but I don't know, maybe preemptively putting that out there would be helpful.
I think so.
Can't hurt. It can't hurt, we just got a line from the other. Like, how do we the same thing?
There are,
No, we would change.
there have been times, there have been times where. Something false or misleading has been. Mentioned in public comment. And. You know, then by the time you get to go to the order, it's like,
Yeah,
you know, it's never. Cleared up. You know, or, you know, 3 people hear the clarification and kind of the damage is done. So that's why I would only think if there's something we really felt needed to be said, other than acknowledging people. But I'll try.
Well, why don't we try, the approach of having something on the agenda about the value of public comment and that we're listening. And we also try to, say that if there's anything that we need to further discuss, we will put it in good of the order. And assign it as an agenda item.
yeah,
Something like that,
Just
just,
don't think we want to put anything in there about assigning if anything is an agenda item.
or it may end up as an agenda item.
I think
I-
referencing agenda item, like, I think
may,
that potentially could raise more hackles of like,
Yeah.
I think it should have been an agenda item, why didn't they?
Yeah.
Sort of,
oh, gotcha.
so not even,
So
I
being
think not having that.
a little vague,
Yeah, but I
spelling it
think,
out, being a little vague.
so during public comment, I take notes of what I'm saying about the whole thing, and I do a really bad job at the end of the meeting, remember to go back to the notes and doing that, so I think just a reminder for us to do that.
Well,
City order.
that maybe we could all try, if one of us realizes that nobody said anything about public comment at the good of the order. Fall back again and say thank you. Just thank you for everybody that came in and gave a public comment this evening.
And maybe at the beginning, the good order, just remind counselors that if there was something that came up in public comment that you would like to discuss, now is the time to discuss it.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah, maybe part of the big order script or whatever.
Yeah.
If it was on the agenda, and it was kind of written on the agenda, tell us for, is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's not getting.
But in the case of somebody who comes in as public comment and rants about a particular counselor. And, you know, for example, at the last meeting, I didn't respond in good of yours, so everybody responded. And I'm not going to, we have to be pushing what was their
There's sometimes,
response.
there's sometimes when just not responding is the answer.
Yeah, because I mean, I can't say it again. You know, it was stupid, I'm not saying it over and over again, I'm not justifying.
No, because it just doesn't end.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just, yeah.
So what if, Jen and I on some, verbiage for the beginning of public comment and the end of public comment and order and sure, if each of you separately respond to your respond. Does that work?
yeah.
Okay.
Can't hurt to try.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for the packet submission requirement, we're just gonna start trying to get summary times and.
Right.
And get the full packet if it's available, hopefully before. From them for our packet.
How much of a issue is that, Jen? For people to get to you, I mean, city staff is doing a really good job of getting their stuff to you, I can imagine if they counted them.
They get in trouble, they don't.
Yeah, kind of like us with staff, with you.
It's normally they're pretty good about getting their stuff, there's sometimes like, the farmer's market, when that was just in her bubble, she needed a little extra time, it got stuck in outgoing. If she wasn't in the office, oh gosh, Lisa had asked for a little extra time between Thanksgiving and the holidays. Normally we can get stuff in there. Thinking in the past with some of our project updates, not now, they've been great about getting stuff in there. Sometimes things are changing so quick, they wanna wait a little bit longer because they wanna give you the most current information, but also now they're saying, okay, we're gonna give this to you and then anything new we update during the meeting. Because you don't want outdated information, so normally we're pretty good. People are pretty good about getting it, if we tell them that it's mandatory, then it just has to be that way, and they don't have a choice.
I like that option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I'm probably the worst culprit of minutes when it comes to anything, so.
Well, but that's because you're chasing us down to answer our emails. I mean, I think we can all work together
Yeah.
to make that easier. So it's the outside groups that, or is it in terms of presentations?
I mean, it's like, we try to work with everyone, like, Mark Bregman, he does his fire updates, he likes to go, because he's just working on it nonstop, and so he tends to not always be in the packet, he gives us the thumb drive right before, but we can just say, do we need it, you know? He's one that does a regular presentation, the chamber's been pretty good about getting it in on the deadline. You know, it's just, I think it's just like you said, education, and we just say, okay, we have to have it. And anything changes, you can talk, you can speak to it during your summary updates of your item.
Right, there,
Yeah.
the verbiage is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just educating, that's gonna be, well, and you're a proponent for that, for
Yes.
educating.
Very good proponent.
So you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Got that solved? Moving on. To a small issue. The. So thank you for reminding us of the people that have sent in things. I think I get probably more complaints in person about health than any other, well, not any other item, but I mean, it's right up there.
Funny,
There's no easy solution.
I just wanna say, you said you get complaints, I get the opposite. I have a whole group of people who I'm on a web, communication chat with, who love the.
No, I mean that I know that there's lots of people, I mean, that's why I think this is a huge divided issue, because the majority of people that I know personally say they've been here before we were, and we need to educate the public about it. What I'm saying is that people that really don't know very much, they, when are you gonna do something about that?
Oh, okay, I misunderstood, I'm sorry.
I probably didn't convey to myself, there's a hand in the audience that would like to say something. Be brief.
Robin Winsley, Post Office Box 950, Canopy, Georgia. The culling of ADL on homeowners' property supported by Oregon Fish and Wildlife was shameful. Canopy is different from Deer Park. I hope education can take precedence and can play a role in keeping our residents and visitors safe. Sorry. That's okay. The chamber could play a large role in this education. An example of what happened in Gerhart was that one property owner had 80 tags. And he invited people on his property to kill. That the people that put this all together felt that it was successful because they don't now are on the east side of 101 and they don't come back over. I talked to Denise about this a bit, Lockman, who shed some light on it. Our dilemma is that the elk have learned to come west during hunting season. And how do we change that? Thanks.
Thank you, Rose.
Yeah, I think if some of the people knew the solution to our ilk problem, that they would not be in favor of it. But I don't know that culling the herd is something that anybody here has come for. But I do think the education is critical. There needs to be a lot more. And it's dangerous out there.
We don't have a comprehensive education program in the city. We don't. Putting up a few signs, putting stuff on a city website is not enough. We have to really make an effort to stop visitors from approaching calves, females. The other day I saw a beautiful, huge male run at somebody who walked right up to one of the cows in his group, you know? And it was like someone local was playing tennis and yelled at them. They said, don't antagonize the elk. Don't do that. You know, the people are just clueless. There should be no one who's clueless. And I also do know that people have been confronted by elk who are killed, who come up into their yard by surprise and they see an elk there and have actually been put in danger. And that is true.
I've had to call for a ride to get home.
Right, me too, but I would never. Fish and Wildlife's answer is to call the herd. It is, that is Fish and Wildlife, that's where they stand. I think that's a terrible idea. But there are some other, possibilities if people were really serious about wanting to cut down on the elk herd, which I am not one of them. But if there is, birth control, for females, if that is. No, they wouldn't take, they wouldn't take a pill once a day. You would put birth control in apples, for example, which they love. And that would cut down on the number of babies. That would cut down the number of babies being born. If that was something you wanted to do, is to reduce the herd. I don't want to. I want to try to start with a public education program first that's really robust. The ocean is dangerous too, and people go in the ocean all the time and risk their lives. And we're trying really hard, we're not gonna cancel the ocean because people are stupid. I think we have to do the same thing, or I shouldn't say stupid, that's the wrong word. Ignorant is a much better word. Unaware. Ignorance is you don't understand. Unaware of the dangers. And they don't understand it, and I can see how that would be, if you have never lived in a community with elk, they just look beautiful, and you think, oh, I'd really like to pat that fuzzy nose, or something, and they approach them. But if they knew that if these are wild animals, stay away, keep your distance, they're protective of their babies, and during birthing season, all that information, and most people would not approach. You're still gonna have those people who are gonna do it anyway. And there's the same people who go in the ocean when there's a riptide warning out. There's the exact same people. And you can't do anything about that. But you can make people so they're not ignorant of the dangers.
Well, so I think the problem is more than just the people aren't being educated. The number of elk in Cannon Beach, the number of human habituated elk in Cannon Beach is substantially larger than it has been historically. And that is our fault as humans. We have created this environment that has no natural predators for the elk except for us. We go up in the hills and shoot them during hunting season. There's a very limited number. Hunting in general is a declining thing. People are hunting on an annual basis, less and less in the hills. It's not as common as it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago, that people just don't do it that often. So the predators for the elk is lower. We provide here in Cannon Beach, our gardens, they love the non-native exotic things that we plant. That's like candy for them. So we have got rid of the predators. We've given them an area around humans to congregate that's comfortable for them because they're not getting hunted by any predators and they have really good food resources around. So
So there's education.
so there's education, and then there is an issue of population management that historically was taking place by wolves and other natural predators, and then shifted into humans being predators, hunting them, and now that's slacking off as well. So their population control, we've created this problem. And we're just living with the problem, essentially, with additional elk coming down that are now extremely habituated to humans. They come down, the herd in Cannon Beach, you literally, that's not that you should, not that anybody should, but you can literally walk right up to them and it doesn't do anything. You do that in Deerheart, you do that down in Arch Cave, Falcon Cove. You can't get within a mile of an elk. They're skittish, they stay away, they are very habituated here in Cannon Beach, and I think that
More and more so than the last.
year over year, it's substantially more habituated, and I don't know what the answer is to why they're more habituated. It seems to be an escalating, and it's gonna come to a head at some point, but
It's like, hey, I discovered that if you can scare the crap out of them, all we have to do is fight it. Yeah.
but in the packet, there was an email back and forth, the bar, we had an email back and forth with, Denise, yeah, and I think that is worth having that, the Placid Plains Health Collaborative, they made an offer in an email to have somebody come out from the VFW to talk about how they provide education, what they do for management, stuff like that, have the experts on that. Then in her thing, she mentioned we're happy to share tools and the expertise the group has developed. And I think that would be worth hearing and learning what tools that group, and I'm very disappointed that we as a city didn't join in the Placid Plains Self Collaborative back when it was initially formed in 2019, I think is what she said. But I think using them as a resource to figure out what tools and expertise that group has.
Like birth control for.
I don't know what they have, I haven't stuff, but whatever it is that they have, yeah.
They call herds, do they kill them?
ODFW solution generally is that.
Oh, I know that's theirs.
But
And they would-
ODFW is part of the collaborative.
But as long as we also, brought in someone that would teach us how to plant. You know. The types of plants that the elk wouldn't like.
Well, usually elk don't eat hosta. Now they're just mowing it down.
That's what, as soon as I said that, I thought about things I've had in my yard.
Yeah.
They suddenly like,
Usually mine didn't disappear until August when the babies came and they didn't know better. And it was like, oh, somebody's kids got the trots,
Yeah.
but now they're just,
Yeah.
yeah, as soon as they come up, so they're just eating whatever is available.
Well, I
And
do too. I know you laughed at the birth control.
Right.
idea.
I just, it was the look on farm.
I just never heard that before. That's the management tool that's been used for other animals.
I
just thought.
I wasn't laughing at
She was laughing at me.
It was.
Well, I know it sounds nutty, but it is a way, it is a way to reduce the numbers in our herd without hurting anybody.
Well, and I said the other day that, there are at least 4 cows in our herd that had twins this year, and they want to
Lots of
more,
babies. Yes.
more and more frequently. And, you know, when Eric talked about natural predators, and when the indigenous people lived here, and they were not only fishers, but they were hunters as well for hundreds of years, right? And so culling, no, what happened in Gearhart was absolutely awful. I've read in a couple places that they're trying to get rid of the word culling because it wasn't really what it was, it's what it was.
There's a lot of us with.
Yeah, that was just terrible. You know, but there's also, when did we close the forest reserve?
Oh,
Yeah.
like I started in, the first year I was here, we could hunt. So that was 12, and then they did it to shotgun slugs. And then archery, and then none. So 12, 13, 14, like around 15.
Yeah.
Cause that's
So
how
it's
much I,
taken about 10 years for the herd to grow.
But we cannot have hunting in your reserve. We cannot close a city asset so that we have to give it around. I mean, I really, we fought that battle.
then on a side note, the first year when they allowed hunting, the first year I was here, they said by permit only. And so we just said, you can do it if you have a permit. Well, I think we stayed over late and on the weekend and nobody even pulled permits. And then the next year when they did shotgun slugs, nobody did it. And then the following year, with first read, only 1% had it. And so once it was more regulated, there, I don't think the interest was there as much.
Well, and Eric even said that just the interest was just going down, but I know it's not a great option. I know it's not something, but it wouldn't be uncalled for to close the reserve for 2 weeks and give 10 cow tags or antlerless tags for purchase with meat being donated to the food pantry. So I'm not saying I necessarily like but we're discussing. I'm not saying that I'm gonna get on a soapbox and either, but it's an option. And, you know, we've had people that have been literally attacked clear up to their homes. Rita couldn't even get out of the forest, right? My house has been surrounded, I don't know how many days. For the whole, like, I can't let my dogs out to go to the bathroom, it doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter if I go out on the bathroom, they don't care, they're doing construction in the lot behind us. They're out there playing, I have a picture of a baby out there dancing, literally, they don't care. And so, and we did the food thing where you can't feed, right, the wild animals. And, well, it's out.
I would be totally against any option that involved calling or whatever you want to call it, any members of the herd. I think there are plenty of other things that can be tried, such as controlling the number of babies through some kind of birth control like they've done with other species, or and public education, and I'd be willing to listen to anything that people from Class of Plains suggested. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's big loud horns you can have, or who knows, I don't know what it is, but definitely I would be totally against any kind of culling of the herd.
There's a difference between culling and hunting. Excuse me, so there's a clear difference there. And I wanna make that clear, that there is a difference between culling and hunting.
Okay, I don't know either, but
Well, that's okay, but there is. Culling is a slaughter, hunting is something that someone does to provide food for their family.
The end result was the same.
yeah, it's the same end result.
For the elk.
For the elk.
Well, you end up with the same end result though, if you allow a population to go unchecked and do its thing, and diseases, among denser populations
That's true.
are significantly worse, and you end up with mass die-offs as opposed to just a couple of things.
Yeah.
When population density gets to a certain level, it's not sustainable. Not only is it not sustainable in Cannon Beach because it's creating human conflicts, but it's not sustainable in the hills where they're running out of food. Because they're staying so close together and their herd is getting so thick that you've got 70, 80, 90 head of elk that are together mowing through an area and essentially devastating it in ways that the habitat isn't prepared to handle.
And
So-
we have, how big is our herd, about 40 plus?
There was over 60, like 3 weeks ago,
Really?
over in the Midtown area. As they moved from the beach, moving up Harrison. It was substantial, there was 42 at one given time sitting in that walk at the intersection of Harrison and Evergreen.
Well, I would like to hear from an expert about options, especially if there are some contraception kinds of things. I don't know, there could be beyond that.
I mean, have to wear a paper bag.
Injecting out
That's not a bad idea.
Robin.
Gerhart was motivated by the golf courses,
Mhm.
the Highlands and the Gerhart Golf Course.
Yeah.
And those people were very involved with that group that you're referring to,
Mhm.
which fortunately we don't have down here. But that was their main thing, was to get rid of them off the course.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I really don't see our objective of getting rid of the elk in Cannon Beach at all. What I see is the objective, my end goal of this is less human habituation and, the population that's sustaining itself without growing. So with less human habituation, you don't have near as many human elk conflicts, whether it be human in a vehicle running into them or people just getting attacked or quasi attacked in town. And I think that's the objective in my mind is, I don't want those human elk interactions, like negative human elk interactions.
Robin, were you saying that it's Robin, did you say that the Clatsop County Plains elk people were the ones who came into Deer Hunt, that same group? Really?
That's one of their things. I'm gonna send you guys a link to the collaborative. It's the Classic Plains Health Collaborative.
Mhm.
That was one of their options, but they do list some other things.
Oh, they
in
do?
there. Like not quite like we were mentioning, it's mostly educational and signage. Fences, things like that, but I'm gonna hit send in just a minute.
But they don't mention any kind of, population control through, contraception.
I didn't see it, I was just been scanning,
Oh.
because I thought that maybe they were the ones, because that was back when you were on council, when it came to but yeah, they definitely has calling, but I'll check them.
It would be interesting because it sounded like skimming through the email chain that ODFW is involved in that, and I'm sure ODFW would have information on. Even if they're not proponents of other forms of population control, that I would think they would.
Yeah.
Be the experts and know of these ones, even if they're not the top chosen methods.
I'm gonna do some research on that.
So I'll send you this because it does list the thing about contraception and have other ideas, but I also gave you the committee meeting score about how well they feel that will work. So I'll send this out to you guys so you can read it. Interesting.
So I think if we are going to, take an approach of educating and try to get as much information as possible, that rather than have it, as a city council meeting, that we have it as a community event, maybe at the Coaster Theater, and try to get, as many options, speakers available on all sorts of different educational components of,
pro and con both.
right, all
Yeah,
sides,
all sides, because you're going to have your hunters and your,
right, and,
that's why.
and try to, take the city council out of it at first, but our goal was to try to educate
Mhm.
the community as to what different tools we have for protection.
Yeah, I think that's important also, not just an education of what elk and all about elk and what people need, how to be different elk, but also what the option, like you said, the option, so. Both of those things being presented without us providing our guidance or input into them. Versus the experts can speak on that subject matter, and then afterwards we have our conversation about whatever it is we learn our takeaways from that.
You have to put paper bag over my head.
I think that
During our presentation.
Really, I think that, anybody, if and when we do that, because I'd like to see that happen too. Anybody who's written us a letter, or those that have commented to us, if we know what that are, get a personal invitation. An actual, instead of a general invitation to it, but actually, thank you for your letter, we're doing this, and we would really like you to be in attendance. Because everybody that's written a letter has really expressed their concern, and they're all pretty valuable members of the community. Well, what I can say.
I know, I love the elk and I love living in a community where elk are welcomed and around, but, I've been in danger a few times recently. And I'm careful. I'm looking at around every corner and anticipating and still. This last week, I was. Got in a dangerous situation. So, I think we need to.
Gary, I have to. And I'm very careful. I always look where I'm going. I'm always aware of it. I'm walking down the street like this when I'm walking the dog. But they're so quiet. I still am totally against the idea of.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Me too.
radical idea, and I think
I,
it would, I mean, even just. I mean, if you wanna look at how people view us and whether they love Cannon Beach, I think it would make a lot of people not love Cannon Beach. I think it would be bad for the community on so many levels.
I think, as usual, we're on the same page. I'm just saying, because, safety wise, it's my biggest concern, not only for me, but then I think about visitors who don't do it. They're walking, Gracie and I walked down last Shirley Park, we were turning around, starting to come back, and that's off, and I just tried to go to people's yards and under their decks, and I still got chased.
Yeah, well, I know.
And I started to go the other direction, and it came around, so it's.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, that's what, I think when there are too many, and that's why I think that there are other methods of bringing down the numbers in the herd that are much more humane and
I hope that's a reasonable action, but I still think a lot of education. Needs to be on the table, and that's one reason I think that, Joe Nichols project is perfect opportunity, because. I mean, and maybe 2 or 3 other places in town, there's the opportunity really, congregate regularly to teach people, where I see the most people things to.
Yeah. They spend a lot of time with food folk when they're on Wednesday, they're the food pantry.
Yeah.
And the very first week that we were going to see people not have their SNAP benefits, the elk were there. And they all laid down where the line of carts were, and our clients thought we had asked them to come and keep a calm presence. I said, yeah, if I was in charge of that, they'd all lay down. So I mean, that's a good place for them. As long as we keep, as soon as you see cars, it's not, high tourist season, and you see cars parked alongside there, as you're, heading on the up north, and you think, that's the first thing I think of that there. But. So, if it's okay with the council, I will. Respond to Denise's offer, but with a little direction as to we want to present a community forum to educate with as many alternative options that are available.
We do a community forum, that's not a council meeting,
Right,
you guys can't. You guys can't participate,
right.
so. As long as you're comfortable with that.
I think that's the direction we want.
Okay.
We don't want to be a
You
city.
could be there for our own education.
Or, yeah,
But
we
you
need to,
can't speak to that,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I mean, you would have to be,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. that-
Can, like, with that organization, can we provide direction as a council for, like, Bart to do an introduction of the speakers, or this is why we're here talking about this sort of thing? Is that,
Let's run it past Jody, just to be on the safe side, because a lot of times whenever there's a meeting and it wants you guys being there, even if you're not gonna be talking about something you'd be deliberating about, we would always do it as a meeting, just in abundance of caution, because everything is an abundance of caution, you know, so.
Is it possible to ask for them to do a presentation of alternatives to Collingwood? Instead of having them come in with their big push to call?
Well, the thing that I sent out with the link, they have a ton of different things in there, but I don't know what their main focus is.
I
But
think
we're still trying to just figure out how to hold the meeting. I'll do an email to Jody with the
Okay.
part, and let's just talk a bit about that, just to see where the line is to make sure that we don't get into anything. I mean, if they wanted to host it on their own and set it up, then we'd be fine.
that would actually be the best option.
Best option would be if they did the
Right.
coordination and the city was completely.
The only drawback to that then is that then we don't have,
Control over it.
control over what's being created.
So I have some articles that are pretty interesting on, using contraceptive methods on Oxfords. I can't send them to her.
No, you can send it to me and I would actually put them in a council packet instead of sending it directly to council. So that way, you can talk about it at home forum whenever you want.
Okay.
So we'll shoot an email tomorrow to Jody. And just touch base with that and then, do you want me to put it on an agenda item or do we want to just find out kind of, because we can discuss what her feedback is as a council to see which way everyone wants to go. After hearing from Jody and his thought options.
Well, my objective or possible is to. I don't know. I mean, I'd like it not to be a city council. Sponsored event, because I don't want it to be. Well, I want it to be an education for our citizens to, learn the options that we have. What is everybody else think? Number one, I don't want it to be a Cohen presentation. I want all options on the table to be presented so that our community is educated as to what we can do.
Here's an idea, how about we add this as, not gonna say work session, I think, because that work session is getting full, but let's add it to January 6th. And you guys read the Lots of Plains collaborative information that's on the website and see if what they're saying is something you would want them to come and present. Because you may read through it and see like a lot of it's education, early offenses. And maybe after you read it, maybe that's not what it means.
How does everybody feel about that?
Just to make sure, because then you have a little bit more information about it.
I think it makes sense, and then it's, the January 6th meeting, we can discuss if there's other entities that we would rather hear from, and maybe discuss, we think the question maybe
Yeah,
about some formats we would require, right?
yeah, and Lisa can submit the information that she wants to share, and maybe between now and then, well, maybe there's a holiday too, but if there's anything else that we find that we want to include, we can put it in the packet without getting it out in public, and then bring back the information. And Joey, you can, like, we can decide how you wanna
Do you think there's enough time to do it before January 6th?
Well, just because it's a backgathering mission.
We're sending Jen off for next week. I'm not letting, when you're coming to City Hall.
Honestly, I think once you guys read the Classic Plains Health Initiative, that will. You guys may decide that's not who you want, or that might, you know,
Okay.
so. Just getting through some, I mean,
I looked at it when she first submitted it, but
Yeah.
now it's gone now. Database.
I think it's just something that you guys should read over, because just like I put skinny. I didn't see a lot of things outside of what you guys would normally do as an education level. But like I said, it was just quick scanning as you guys were talking. They have a human management subcommittee, I mean, the health management, just sort of, the health management, develop fencing. Develop and implement health behavior modification plan, use deterrence to direct health from select areas. Use attractants to help. Try to attract health in certain areas. Develop and establish health movement corridors. Evaluate and expand ODF hunting options, increase targeted use of hazing and hazing permits, conduct following. Although they do say you don't include the organized basis, which is that, use targeted removal of individual problem health to reduce the visual health that pose an immediate threat to public safety. So those are the health management subcommittee options, and then there's the human management, which is more about fencing, educating younger kids, signage. No feeding ordinances. So I think it might just be something that you'll work through.
Okay.
First.
Well, and sometimes that's just education, right? I mean, we could probably even say, because I think you're gonna say the same with any organization. You should, I'll dig around and see if I can find a couple other things too, while Jen is not supposed to be in the.
Yeah, and whether you send me, I'll stay in the packet, and you guys can have a discussion about which direction you really wanna go.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? And then make sure you send your stuff. Okay. That's it for right now. And then next we have, committee, commission, and board vacancies.
So can I give a quick update on that one?
They're all full.
Okay, so, but I do have two applicants, so on this one, I have a little color coded system for myself. I didn't have my face tag, because he is not renewing, so that is a posted position for him. But I did receive, one application for the commission position, which would take over for my date, and I did receive one for farmer's market. So, any little bit helps. The biggest concern to make sure council is aware of is the public works committee, Janae turns out at the end of this month. And they will not be able to meet because they will no longer have a quorum. So. From a history standpoint, years ago, they used to have, I believe, 7 people on their committee. And because we had a hard time getting people in, they reduced the number down to 5. So they will not be meeting until we can get another applicant. I know the remaining members and staff have been, talking and asking people and trying to find someone to come in, but that's kind of the current status that we're at.
Well, we have to keep the public works committee at least 5. I think that's.
Yeah, you can't go lower.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do know the public works. The existing public works committee members and former ones are trying to recruit.
Yeah.
It
is harder because before, when we got to this point, you usually, the committees were always able to find somebody who wanted to come in, and it is a little slower moving these days.
And the fact that we've had one opening on the budget committee for as long as we've had 2, I think was alarming.
Well, and Stacy's actually filling the position she vacated on Parks Committee.
Oh, Stacy's back.
Yeah, so she's filling the one she vacated a year ago.
Yeah, she's waiting for a year. Yeah.
Well, she's saying that position sat for a year in that time.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Which is sad.
Which is we good, we're reserving that spot.
Fine, so my husband is a retired CPA.
Yes.
And of construction management.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get him to put in for the budget committee, and there'd be no question about there any conflict of interest. I mean, you know, so we don't see eye to eye on most, no, half of the stuff we do.
You know, and one thing in looking at it, I mean, yeah, it'd be so great. And looking at, some of the names of the people that are on one commission, I wonder if everybody realizes they can serve on two. And then two. So I mean, I wonder if that's something, that we could remind our current committee members that they always have the opportunity to be on two city committees. I don't know if that would help.
I can send an email, we can send to all the committees and commissions just a vacancy notice to just say, hey, quick reminder, we have open positions and don't forget, you can serve on two.
No, that would help.
I mean, there's no doubt that getting volunteers is more difficult than, I just have also just an additional concern of trying to advocate for the same group
Oh,
of 10
yeah,
people
that's true.
being on every single
That's
committee.
perfect, that's okay. No, that's a really good point.
Because we end up with
Yeah, we
essentially
should have
10
that.
people volunteers.
Yeah.
And that's it, they
Yeah.
just are on every single
Yeah.
committee, so it's the
Good point.
same.
I would draw, I would cross.
Have we, just gonna throw this out there.
There's very few people want to volunteer, but
Yeah.
Have we thought about putting an invitation in the, utility in the water bill?
Oh, and we'll notice about.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
you can't hurt.
Yeah.
and especially if we can work some of this.
Right, exactly, yeah. But also, I think this is indicative of all of our volunteer organizations that we're aging out and, I mean, some people are aging out. Well, but I think every organization is having some volunteer recruitment issues.
Is there something in the bulletin?
Yeah, so we put the vacancy notice in the bulletin, we put it on Facebook, it's at the post office,
So it's just,
just kind of the general. Places.
we could put tags around the outside.
Yeah, a lot of the tourists do that. Well, recruiting all of my friends. Here's a little bill. Okay, anything else on committees, missions and board vacancies?
No, I mean, there has to be a way.
Yeah. So if any of us have any ideas as to who would be a good committee person, a personal invitation from a member of the city council of Cannon Beach would probably be just a great selling point. So think about that. Don't laugh at me. Okay. Now, we can't really tackle items on tomorrow's agenda because we're asking city staff. Yeah, to be here for that.
Jeff did ask if we should prepare a PowerPoint, and I did say that we would almost be disappointed if we didn't have some slides. Because Jeff is known for himself.
Right, yeah. Okay, so tomorrow, we're going to switch the two agenda items.
Yeah, so we're gonna do Jeff search with TSC and then we'll get the master plans with Chris.
Okay,
And he's prepared to, getting prepared to talk on the parks, water and wastewater.
Yep, I think he even threw in a whole report reserve.
okay,
Yeah, he's been doing some research on it and getting updates. He did tell us that yesterday was his 1 month anniversary also.
and yes, a long day yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so does anybody have anything for the order? Going once, going twice? Bruce, do you need anything like to say?
No.
Okay. Yeah, any words of wisdom?
Not anymore.
Okay, so meeting's adjourned, and we don't have to take down the notice.